Chapter 1427. The Alava Tribe. There was an indescribable sense of familiarity. Arbor was just thinking about how he had heard of this tribe's name before when he saw a red figure leading a dozen or so men and women of different tribes walk into the main hall. This red-clothed girl was about 18 years old. She wore a neat scarlet riding outfit and a pair of black riding boots. Her long hair was tied up, revealing a small, spotlessly white face that resembled a full moon. There was a small, extremely familiar dimple on her left cheek. Arbor's eyes bulged, and he stood up from his seat, almost out of control. The crown prince was taken aback, and he looked up at his wifey who suddenly stood up. At this time, the red-clothed girl also seemed to have noticed Arbor, who had abruptly stood up. When she clearly saw the girl's little stoic face, her eyes instantly turned round. However, before she could quickly walk up to meet Xiaomu, a brawny man with an unshaven beard suddenly walked out from the Aikido tribe's team in front of her. He gave her a boorish smile before saying disdainfully, the little rats of the Alava tribe actually have the courage to walk out of their tiny caves and come to Northern Mo's territory. How did you hide along the way?" The people of the Aikido tribe roared with laughter, completely disregarding whether they attracted the attention of the other guests as they publicly berated the red-clothed girl from the Alava tribe. The red-clothed girl unsheathed her sword and slapped it on the brawny man's chest, pushing him back with all her might. She said with an icy expression, "Today is Northern Mo's Queen Dowager's birthday, so this girl won't lower herself to your level." Scram! The Aikido tribe's brawny man with a stubble immediately jumped up and furiously swung his fist at the red-clothed girl. His action incurred the displeasure of Northern Mo's officials, and they all looked at him coldly with suppressed anger in their eyes. However, because he was a guest, and the great king and the Queen Dowager had yet to speak, they naturally couldn't be the first to criticize him. Swish swish swish, smack. A crafty green vine drilled out of nowhere and directly transformed into the shadow of a whip, fiercely whipping the brawny man's elbow-sized fist. Ow wow! The brawny man howled uncontrollably as a bloody mark appeared on his fist after being hit by this blow. Among the people present, some of the sects and family heads who were invited couldn't help but twitch their mouths. Here it comes, here it comes, here it comes again. This unlucky man could have made a move in front of anyone, but he actually dared to be so arrogant in front of the little crown princess. Although most people didn't know who did it, they were all secretly pleased. The people of the Aikido tribe actually disregarded their dignity and attacked another group of guests from Northern Moa at the Queen Dowager's banquet. They should indeed be taught what etiquette was. Who attacked me? Who? The bearded man angrily turned his head, his gaze searching the hall back and forth. Everyone was glaring at him with sullen faces. Even the Empress Dowager, who had been smiling all the time, suddenly darkened her face. Her somewhat angry gaze fell on the big man's face. The great king slammed the table and said angrily, "Who are you? How can you be so rude?" The bearded man was still somewhat respectful and fearful of the great king of Northern Moa. When he heard this, he hastily crossed his chest and bowed respectfully to the great king. "Honorable Northern Moa great king, this lowly one is the Chiliarch of the Aikido tribe, Kaisen. This lowly one has come with our young chief to offer birthday gifts to Her Majesty the Empress Dowager of Northern Moa." Chapter 1428. I was actually attacked for no reason at this time. As the great king of Northern Mo, shouldn't you give this lowly one an explanation? After all, this lowly one is a guest of Northern Mo, and your great Mo kingdom has a duty to protect me. Everyone couldn't help feeling indignant at Kaisen's rascally appearance. Give you a bullshit explanation. You were the first to attack someone at the Empress Dowager's birthday banquet, and you still have reason? Now that someone had secretly attacked you, you actually have the face to complain tearfully to the great king for an explanation. The people from the Aikido tribe standing to the side didn't make a sound. Instead, they watched all of this with interest. The Aikido tribe had always been the most powerful tribe in the western wastelands. Their people never needed to beg for mercy or shed tears. Whatever they encountered, they would directly face it by themselves. Kaysen was their Aikido tribe's chiliarch and a valiant level 13 body cultivator. They believed that with Kaysen's ability, he definitely wouldn't be at a disadvantage. However, they seemed to be overly confident. "I'll give you an explanation." An icy voice came from the front of the main hall. A red figure flashed, and the person landed in front of Kaysen. There wasn't the slightest bit of expression on her snow-white face, and there was only a solemn and chilly air. Kaysen was taken aback, and a trace of amazement suddenly rose in his eyes. However, before he could tease her, an enormous force suddenly attached itself to his body. Kaysen was greatly shocked, completely not expecting that this little girl would actually attack as she pleased. Before he could say anything, he was lifted up by the enormous force and fell out of the main hall. Kaysen simply didn't know what was going on. However, everyone else in the main hall saw everything clearly and without a shadow of a doubt. The young crown princess didn't allow any explanation as she sent a palm flying through the air. Dense mystic energy slapped Kaysen's body, sending him flying out. Just one move was enough to send a level 13 body cultivator flying like a little chick. The force behind that slap was probably at least 1,000 pounds. The expressionless little crown princess dashed out of the main hall in a single stride. Before the unlucky Kaysen could get up from the ground, a palm formed by the earth spirit firmly covered his body. At the same time, everyone in the main hall rushed out like a swarm of bees. To watch. Kaysen was slapped by an earth spirit's palm and sunk into a flower bed of various sizes, forming a rather ridiculous human-shaped pit. He spat out a mouthful of blood as nourishment for the flower bed. Cough, cough, cough. Kaysen looked at the little girl in shock. He had never imagined that he, a 13th level body cultivator, would be unable to withstand a single blow from this little girl. What was going on? Even if this little girl had started to absorb the heaven and earth profound energy in her mother's womb, she shouldn't have grown to this extent. Arbor took out an ice sword that glinted with awe-inspiring light. He looked at him coldly and said, "Today is grandmother's birthday. I'll spare your life. Don't provoke me. You won't be able to bear the consequences." The little stoic calmly threw down this sentence before turning around and walking towards the woman in red. Unexpectedly, the woman cried out in alarm, "Junior sister. Be careful. Kaysen. Stop right there." ACI bellowed angrily. Kaysen swept over from behind with a sinister and malicious glint in his eyes. He clenched his fists and hammered two enormous forces at the back of the young crown princess's head. Chapter 1429. You're courting death. A cold glint flashed through Prince Mo's eyes, and he was about to fly to the little stoic's side. However, he saw the little stoic's figure abruptly vanish from the spot. Kaysen's two punches missed, and he staggered forward a few steps with a stupefied expression. At this time, the young chief of the Aikido tribe, ACI, had already arrived at his side and gave Kaysen a heavy slap across the face without allowing for an explanation. "Didn't you hear me tell you to stop? Who gave you the guts to kill her?" Kaysen clutched his swollen left cheek and shrunk his neck submissively. In the blink of an eye, they saw the little crown princess jump down from the main hall's roof. Everyone stared at her, stupefied. They looked at the place she disappeared from and the main hall's roof. Fuck, that was a huge distance away. They couldn't figure out how she could jump down from the roof. Mo Lien arrived beside her in a flash and grasped her small hand. He knew that this little fellow was holding back for grandmother's sake. Other people didn't know what was going on, but the discerning people present were very clear that the little crown princess had used a talisman. Arbor had precisely used a teleportation talisman to teleport away because she was worried that if this continued, she wouldn't be able to control herself and would slaughter this stinky man on the spot. A weakling actually dared to attack her from behind. This guy was full of flaws. One had to know that in that split second, Arbor had over a dozen ways to make him die on the spot, and he would die a very ugly death. However, she herself would feel extremely disgusted if someone died during grandmother's lively birthday banquet. Not to mention what grandmother would think. Kaysen didn't know that the Queen Dowager had imperceptibly saved his life. He didn't know what witchcraft the little crown princess had used to quickly teleport him to the roof. He only glanced at the little crown princess before his entire body trembled, and he retracted his gaze. He felt that the little girl's gaze was a bit too sharp and couldn't be looked straight at. Young Chief ACI, if you don't know how to manage your subordinates. This crown prince doesn't mind teaching him a lesson. Mo Lien glanced at Yasi. Without waiting for him to reply, she took Arbor's little hand and walked back into the hall. Arbor had too many questions that he wanted to ask the woman in red from the Alava tribe. However, celebrating his grandmother's birthday was more important, so he had to put everything on hold for now. It was just that its pair of big eyes would occasionally glance at the face of the red-clothed woman from the Alava tribe. The light in its eyes couldn't be suppressed, and everyone could see it. Situ-E nodded at the red-clothed woman, fanning himself as he sat in his seat, occasionally exchanging a few words with others. I really didn't expect to see junior sister Doya well after so many years. Liang Qingqing couldn't help but sigh. Back then, when they went to Xixia Valley for the competition, the group of girls from the Holy Water sect were all very familiar with each other. No wonder little junior sister is so happy. Situ-E stopped fanning and smiled faintly. Sitting at the head seat, the Queen Dowager looked at her grandson and granddaughter-in-law with a grin. She recovered her cheerful expression and nodded repeatedly at the guests who were entering the hall again. The third crown prince of the Eastern Kingdom, Ing Fa, congratulates the Queen Dowager on her birthday. A pair of ceremonial blue spiritual sparrows, a piece of fish dragon mystic jade, 5 fluorescent spirits. Commandery Princess Yi-an has arrived. Following this announcement, Yi-an slowly walked in from outside the main hall in a gorgeous and dazzling robe with fluttering sleeves. She instantly attracted all the guests' gazes. As expected of the Commandery Princess who has always been by Her Majesty the Queen Dowager's side. Beautiful, generous, and lovely. Chapter 1430. Although the volume was not loud, Commandery Princess Yi-an enjoyed hearing the praises that came from all around her. They were all praising her with all their might. Sure enough, she was also excellent. She knew it. She was not inferior to that crown princess at all. It was just a pity that His Highness the Crown Prince kept a distance from her from beginning to end, unwilling to look her in the eye. Otherwise, she would definitely let him know how good she was. Commandery Princess Yi-an gracefully walked to the bottom of the steps with a graceful smile. She bowed docilely to the Queen Dowager and said softly, Yi-an wishes Her Majesty the Queen Dowager good fortune, longevity, and good health. Yi-an has specially prepared a small gift for the Queen Dowager to express Yi-an's filial piety. Su-er, who was bowing behind her, hastily raised a large red tray above her head. On top of it was a large red 100 lifespan painting, which was exquisitely and ostentatiously presented to everyone. Wow, the Commandery Princess personally embroidered a 100 lifespan painting for Her Majesty the Queen Dowager. As expected, her filial piety is commendable. Look at this 100 lifespan painting. It is about several meters long and exquisitely embroidered. It can be seen at a glance that she put in a lot of effort and time. That's right, that's right. It seems like it's not just this 100 lifespan painting. There's also a porcelain bottle. When Yi-an heard everyone mention the porcelain bottle on the tray, she couldn't help but reveal a smug expression. Inside the porcelain bottle is a high-grade prolongation pill. I hope it will be useful to Her Majesty the Queen Dowager. Wow! The main hall was abuzz with discussion. Could it be that Commandery Princess Yi-an was the one who bought a prolongation pill at an astronomical price at the House of Treasures last time? Oh, I also heard about this. Everyone praised Commandery Princess Yi and with smiles. Her filial piety moved the heavens and moved the earth. In order to increase Her Majesty the Queen Dowager's lifespan, she did not hesitate to spend an astronomical price to purchase a prolongation pill. With Her Majesty the Queen Dowager's level 14 phenomenal success cultivation as a mystic cultivator, consuming a prolongation pill was actually not that effective. Although prolongation pills were high-grade pills, the higher the cultivator's cultivation, the less effective they were. Moreover, they heard that this prolongation pill that the House of Treasures was auctioning was only a middle-grade pill. Due to the different grades of medicinal pills, their medicinal effects would naturally differ greatly. If the Empress Dowager took this middle-grade prolonging life pill, it would at most increase her lifespan by 1 or 2 years. However, this was still a good amount of time. Cultivators, who didn't wish they could have a longer lifespan, so they could have more time to break through. The Queen Dowagers were the Queen Dowager's eyes to end. Especially the heads of the aristocratic families who had been invited, their shrewd old eyes shifted to the porcelain vase one after another, the Queen Dowagers as dowagers. And Dowager Douse eyes of her queens in her Douse the Queen Dowager's gaze flickered, and she glanced at Commandery Princess Yi and indifferently before nodding with a smile. I've troubled you. Dowagers was, but then. After the Empress Dowager took the prolonging life pill and reaped the benefits, she would naturally treat her as well as she did in the past. This estrangement was only temporary. Everyone seems to be curious about the prolongation pill. Since that's the case, then pass it around for everyone to peruse. Yes, Queen Dowager. The junior supervisor eunuch hastily walked down with the large red tray. Everyone was overjoyed, and they passed it around to look at the pill inside the porcelain bottle. The little stoic was startled. Someone turned around with a smile to look at the pill patrician family's patriarch and the 2 young sirs. Chapter 1431. Family Head Qin, eldest young master, second young master, you 3 are pill experts. May I know how much lifespan this prolongation pill can extend for the Queen Dowager? The one who spoke was second master Wu of the Wu family. His old eyes fell on the small porcelain bottle, and he almost could not take his eyes off it. Qin Guelu smiled faintly and stood up solemnly. He cupped his hands at the Queen Dowager and said, the prolongation pill that the Commandery Princess purchased is a middle-grade advanced-level prolongation pill. According to its effects, if the Queen Dowager were to consume a middle-grade prolongation pill with her cultivation, perhaps. The lifespan it can extend will not exceed half a year at most. As soon as Qin Guelu finished speaking, there was an uproar below. Rumors had already spread outside that this middle-grade advanced-level prolongation pill that the House of Treasures had auctioned off had been sold for the astronomical price of 170,000 high-grade mystic currency. Wasn't it a bit of a loss for such an astronomical price to only extend the Queen Dowager's lifespan by half a year? Although everyone was criticizing her in their hearts, they were all flattering her on the surface. Omega Kotoku looked up slightly, and her gaze swept past the little stoic's face so quickly that it was almost undetectable. However, the little fellow was still keenly aware of the oppressive gaze. When she looked over, she only saw that everyone in the main hall was talking loudly about the life prolongation pill. She didn't notice any suspicious gazes at all. She only felt that she was overthinking things, so she lowered her eyes slightly. On the side, Prince Mo squeezed her small hand gently, and the 2 whispered into each other's ears. When Commandery Princess Yi saw their affectionate appearance, the discomfort in her heart abruptly expanded. Commandery Princess Yi's eyes flickered, and she suddenly smiled at the Queen Dowager. She said softly, and heard that the Crown Princess also prepared a big gift for Her Majesty the Queen Dowager. I really want to broaden my horizons. The crowd that was originally still chatting and laughing became absolutely silent all of a sudden. The main hall was so quiet that it was simply a bit frightening. Even the great king and the queen, who were sitting on the steps, had also put away their smiles, and their first glance reflexively landed on their daughter-in-law. "It's over." The great king wailed in his heart. Did Yi-pen take the wrong medicine? Why did she suddenly attack the little crown princess? Today, other than that idiotic Chiliarch of the Aikido tribe, who else would go against the crown princess for no reason? What a fool! Yi-pen realized with a start that the crown prince's cold gaze had suddenly landed on her. His heart trembled slightly, and he paused for a moment. The hall was so silent that one could hear a pin drop. The little stoic suddenly stood up expressionlessly and pattered to the center of the main hall. With a flip of her small hand, she took out a peach the size of a wash basin and held it up with both hands. "For your grandmother." No matter how he looked at it, this scene was adorable. As the corners of everyone's mouth twitched, their eyes were filled with smiles. The Empress Dowager was grinning from ear to ear. "Oh, my good granddaughter-in-law, where did you get such a big peach of immortality? Good, good, good. Quickly present it." The Queen Dowager nodded repeatedly with a grin. The junior managing eunuch instantly put on a beaming face as he pattered down the steps to take the big peach of immortality that the crown princess handed over. The little stoic expressionlessly took out another one. The junior managing eunuch quickly ran back and forth twice to present the peach of immortality, smelling the peach's fragrance with an intoxicated expression. Damn, what kind of peach was this? Not only was it big, but it also emitted a spiritual energy, and its fragrance permeated the air. Chapter 1432. When the little crown princess took out those two peaches, everyone could smell the fragrance filling the hall, and they involuntarily swallowed their saliva. It was as if their eyes were glued to the peaches, and they couldn't shift their gazes away. The 12th prince even jumped up exaggeratedly. "Eldest sister-in-law. This peach, it's such a big one." Mo Lien speechlessly facepalmed and shot the little 12th a glare. "Shut up." The 12th prince pursed his lips aggrievedly and sat down pitifully, muttering softly, "Eldest sister-in-law, your birthday is also coming up soon." Everyone. The little stoic glanced at him before retracting her gaze and looking at the junior steward eunuch who was jogging toward her again. Arbor beckoned the junior eunuch over with his small hand. The junior eunuch quickly ran over while bowing and saying with a chuckle, "Crown Princess." That little stoic expressionlessly flipped her small hand, and two white and clean small porcelain bottles and a small jar appeared in her hand. She tossed them all into the junior eunuch's hands. "For grandmother." The old Queen Dowager was holding a large immortal peach and examining it carefully, grinning from ear to ear. When she heard this, she quickly looked up and looked at the two small porcelain bottles and the small jar that the junior eunuch had brought over. The Queen Dowager was moved, and she asked curiously with a smile, "What are these, granddaughter-in-law?" 3 prolongation pills. Everyone. 1 level, 15 mystic breakthrough pill. Everyone. And a box of beautifying ointment. The entire main hall once again sank into a deathly silence. This time, no one really spoke anymore. Everyone sat there quietly, gazing at this stoic-faced little crown princess as if they were looking at a guest from another star domain. Impossible. And barely controlled her bellyful of anger and looked up, but she still couldn't resist giving the crown princess a mocking look. "Could it be that you want to tell everyone that you are a pill alchemist? Don't mention that beautifying ointment, I've never even heard of it. No one in the entire Seacombe planet can refine something like a level 15 mystic breakthrough pill. Don't think that just because I don't know how to refine pills, I don't know about medicinal herbs. I heard that the fire spirit rhinoceros leaf, an essential medicinal ingredient for refining a level 15 mystic breakthrough pill, has long been extinct on Seacombe planet." As she spoke, she once again glanced mockingly at the stoic face. "Without the fire spirit rhinoceros leaf, what materials will you use to refine a level 15 mystic breakthrough pill?" She wasn't the one who refined it, all right. That level 15 profound breakthrough pill was Long Chuyun's creation. She was merely using it to present Buddha with borrowed flowers. However, the little Stoic, whose natural disposition was undisciplined and disinclined to explain, naturally wouldn't waste words with her. She cast her a glance before pattering back to the Crown Prince's side and sitting down. Everyone was speechless. Duan Yu was unbearably amused. He only heard Commandery Princess Yi and berating the Crown Princess with all her might, as though she wanted to expose something. The fire spirit rhinoceros leaf is the sole ingredient used to concoct the level 15 mystic breakthrough pill. It could be said that without this earth-grade medicinal ingredient, it was simply impossible to concoct a level 15 profound breakthrough pill. Empress Dowager, it's better to be cautious, so as to avoid. After that, she purposely stopped speaking, leaving room for other people to imagine. But who didn't know that her following words would definitely be, so as to avoid accidentally consuming a fake pill, failing to break through and damaging her body instead. The little Stoic creased her brows and suddenly pulled out a crumpled piece of paper from her inner world. Everyone looked at her in bewilderment. Sitting next to her, the Crown Prince saw everything clearly, and his mouth involuntarily twitched. See you tomorrow. Chapter 1433. Duan Yu swept a glance over and immediately saw what the crumpled, tattered paper in the little Stoic's hand was. It was a list of gifts that had been presented along with the gifts. The little Stoic remembered that there was definitely something called the fire rhinoceros leaf among them. She flipped through it and finally found that gift list that included the fire rhinoceros leaf with much difficulty. Pursing her small lips, the little Stoic stood up and flung that gift list just like that. The gift list fluttered down to the ground. Written on it were the details of the gifts. There were all sorts of miraculous elixirs and rare treasures. Tap, tap, tap. The little Stoic was afraid that and could not see clearly due to her poor eyesight, so she walked up to Commandery Princess and abruptly slapped that gift list at her face. See for yourself. Father Chiao, who was sitting with the officials, facepalmed in exasperation. Qin Guelu wasn't too sure if other people had seen the details of this gift list, but family head Qin had seen this gift list clearly. There were all kinds of rare medicinal herbs, medicinal pills, and all kinds of defensive artifacts. This was simply unfilial son. Family head Qin glared fiercely at eldest young Sir Qin, who was facepalming. To be honest, the eldest young Sir had presented such a generous gift back then in order to disgust His Highness the Crown Prince. Who would have thought that the little Stoic would pull such a stunt for him today and even let family head Qin discover it with heartache? He had presented so many gifts, cough, cough, cough. Although young Sir Omega Kotoku was expressionless, his gaze shifted to the eldest young Sir's face. Who would have thought? This guy had actually presented such a generous gift. Judging from the length of that gift list, there were probably 200 different gifts from beginning to end. TSK, he really was generous. Commandery Princess and stared dumbfoundedly at the large words imprinted in front of her eyes. The 4 words, Fire Rhinoceros Leaf, were clearly written on the gift list. Her face flushed red, and she simply wanted to cry but had no tears. Previously, she had told everyone present with a strong case that it was simply impossible for the Crown Princess to refine a level 15 mystic breakthrough pill because she did not have a soul herb like the fire rhinoceros leaf as a catalyst. In the end, she had slapped the little Stoic's face in a matter of minutes. Commandery Princess and only felt her face burning with pain. However, if she were to take a step back now, it would only make things worse. Every pair of eyes in the hall were staring at her. Most of them were waiting to watch a good show. How could she shrink back? Commandery Princess took a deep breath before saying with a sneer, even if you have something like the fire rhinoceros leaf, even if you are a pill alchemist, this still cannot prove that this level 15 mystic breakthrough pill has no problems. Princess, there's no point in saying that. Liang Qingqing interrupted her with a sullen face, whether little junior sister is an alchemist or not, and what her alchemy skills are like. I believe that some of the people here know better than you. That's right. Wei Nanfeng said with a mischievous grin as he waved his fan, this whatever commandery princess, the little stoic really is a pretty good pill refiner. The day before yesterday, this little guy gave Bailey's second highness a level 13 mystic breakthrough pill. Look today, this person from the Bailey family is already a level 13 mystic cultivator. Wei Nanfeng's dunce words immediately caused a huge commotion, and everyone looked towards Bailey Shi. Sure enough, they discovered that this second highness had the energy fluctuations of a level 13 mystic cultivator from his body. The little stoic was disinclined to explain and put away that messy gift list before walking back to sit next to the crown prince woodenly. Meanwhile, Commandery Princess Yi-en was flustered and exasperated. What did she mean? Chapter 1434. She gave 1 prolongation pill, but this stoic face gave 3 to the Queen Dowager. Was he trying to step on her face to demonstrate his prowess? She had spent her entire fortune to buy a prolongation pill for Her Majesty the Queen Dowager with great difficulty, all for the sake of stunning everyone in the main hall today. But now? There was no harm if there was no comparison, but once there was a comparison, it was a critical hit. The stoic face was like a peerless nouveau riche, taking out 3 prolongation pills at the slightest disagreement. It was as though prolongation pills were as worthless as cabbages that could be found on the streets. How could she endure this? How could she endure this? Commandery Princess Yi-en pursed her stiff lips as she swept a cold glare at the expressionless stoic face. She really wanted to tear apart this expressionless face. She wanted everyone to see her true colors. Hypocritical, vain. This little lady was not as carefree as she appeared on the surface, not caring about anything at all. Her objective today was to ruthlessly slap her, Yi-en's, face. Abominable, abominable, abominable. If the little stoic could hear Yi-en's mental activities, she would definitely turn her nose up at her. You must be crazy. Who would have the free time to tear you down and slap you in the face? Who told you to be so unlucky, giving out a gift that was more or less the same as mine? Who was to blame? She could only admit that she was unlucky. You said that your bottle contains 3 prolongation pills. Then do you dare to pour one out and let family head Qin, the elixir patrician family, appraise it? Family head Qin, who had gotten shot while lying down, looked at that commandery princess in astonishment. What was going on? Why did you drag this old man down with you? Can this old man say that he won't appraise it? Arbor didn't even bother to bat an eyelid and turned his face away, not wanting to talk to a fool. Prince Emo pinched her small hand in amusement before replying on her behalf, as you wish. However, this crown prince suggests that since Commandery Princess Yi-en's prolongation pill is to be appraised as well, then family head Qin should appraise it as well. Your Highness is right. The officials all nodded in agreement. Family head Qin, please. Since someone was so eager to embarrass herself, then she had no reason to refuse. Arbor glanced at Commandery Princess Yi-en indifferently but did not say anything. Qin Guelu had no choice but to stand up and say, since your Highness has spoken, then this old man will appraise it. If there's anything wrong with what I said, please correct me. At this moment, the great king's interest was completely aroused. He hurriedly nodded and said, family head Qin, please. Qin Guelu first picked up Commandery Princess Yi-en's pill. I already said earlier. This was a middle-grade pill with blue veins. After the Empress Dowager takes it, her lifespan will increase by half a year. Blue-veined pills have their own pill fragrance. Everyone should be able to smell it. Everyone nodded in agreement. At this moment, Qin Guelu picked up the jade bottle that the little crown princess presented. As soon as he opened the lid of the jade bottle, everyone smelled a faint medicinal fragrance that refreshed the heart and mind, lingering in the main hall. It smells so good. Everyone took a deep breath in unison, as if they wanted to completely inhale the medicinal fragrance of the pill out of thin air. On the other hand, Qin Guelu was so excited that he almost jumped up. This is a high-grade purple vein life prolongation pill. If the Queen Dowager consumes it, she can extend her lifespan by 2 years. Right, this kind of high-grade life prolongation pill can only be consumed 3 times in 20 years at most. Wow, there was a commotion below. Everyone looked at the little crown princess in shock. Qin Guelu even cupped his hands in salute at the little crown princess. May I ask, was this pill refined by the crown princess? Chapter 1435. Impossible. An, who had originally wanted to expose the crown princess for using a fake pill to deceive the Queen Dowager, didn't expect that she would be the one to dig her own grave in the end. Commandery Princess An was so infuriated that her heart, liver, spleen, and lungs ached. She only felt that her face was unbearably hot. It was as if everyone was staring at her strangely, as if they were looking at an idiot. She couldn't tolerate this. Especially when that family head Qin actually said that this stoic face had personally refined such an impressive high-grade, advanced-level prolongation pill. So, how was this possible? Before the crown princess could speak, Commandery Princess An beat her to it with a high-pitched voice. She swept a glance at family head Qin and said in a mocking tone, "The crown princess's cultivation is so high, so she must have spent a lot of time and energy on it. How could she have the spare time to become an advanced-level pill refinement master? In the entire Seikong planet, there are no more than 10 advanced-level pill refinement masters who can refine high-grade pills, and each one of them is an elderly man on the verge of death. The stoic face in front of you is merely 15 years old. Even if she started learning pill refinement in her mother's womb, there still wouldn't be enough time." Commandery Princess An directly called the crown princess stoic face in her desperation. Everyone was speechless when they heard this. This commandery princess used a condescending expression to analyze the truth in front of her. Afterwards, she swept a glance at family head Qin again before saying with a nonchalant shake of her head, "Family head Qin, your words are too laughable." Qin Guelu was momentarily at a loss for words. Indeed, if these 3 advanced-level prolongation pills were truly refined by the little crown princess, then she was really too amazing. Not only did she have great accomplishments in cultivation, but she also had such great accomplishments in pill refinement. This sounded too unrealistic. However, this conceited commandery princess's tone inevitably made people uncomfortable. Qin Guelu frowned and said rudely, "Only the crown princess knows best whether or not it is true." Commandery princess's words seem a bit arbitrary. The little crown princess sat there without saying a word. Only those who were close to her could see that the child was extremely impatient. This commandery princess An was unwilling to let go of her, which really made her feel gloomy. The little stoic stood up again and pattered to Qin Guelu. She suddenly swiped her hand, and a large pile of porcelain bottles appeared in front of Qin Guelu. Qin Guelu glanced at her in shock, and his hand trembled as he opened one of them. Life extension pill. The second one was the life-prolonging pill. The third one was still a life-prolonging pill. The large pile of life-prolongation pills made family head Qin's jaw drop. Was this mass production of life-prolongation pills? He tapped on the bottles and inspected them. Then, he said in a trembling voice, 100 bottles of life-prolonging pills. Pills. Gulp. Family head Qin realized that he could hear himself swallowing his saliva. 5 pills per bottle. Wow. Gasps could be heard from the hall. Everyone looked at the little stoic in shock. They simply couldn't imagine what kind of courage it took to take out 500 prolongation pills all at once. Is it really okay for you to scare people like this? After a moment of silence, the hall suddenly erupted with shouts. Crown Princess, I'll buy it. I'll buy it, I'll buy it. Are these life prolongation pills for sale? Crown Princess, sell one to me. In an instant, the entire hall had turned into a wet market. Everyone was so excited that they wished for nothing more than to pounce on this pile of pills. Chapter 1436. Crown Princess, I'll pay 170,000 mystic currency to buy a prolongation pill. I'll also pay 170,000 mystic currency. Buy one, I'll buy one. Crown Princess, I'm begging you, sell the prolongation pill to me. Crown Princess, I'll pay 1,000,000 mystic currency. Can you give me 6 prolongation pills at a cheaper price? Scram, you actually want 6 pills. The main hall was immediately filled with the sounds of people shouting prices and quarreling, turning the place into a chaotic mess. However, the little stoic swiftly put away the 100 bottles of prolongation pills and silently swept everyone a glance. That gaze was as disdainful as it could be, and it made everyone feel disgusted to death. Duan Yu guffawed and waved the raven bone fan in his hand, saying with a grin, how could Jojo lack your bit of mystic currency? Everyone thought about it and realized that this was true. Mystic currency wasn't created by the imperial court, so the little crown princess could have as many mystic currency as she wanted with a stretch of her hand. Hence, everyone clamored again, then crown princess, how about this? How about I use a black rank medicinal herb to exchange for a prolongation pill? The little stoic turned to look at family head Qin, who spoke, and nodded reluctantly. What black rank medicinal herb will you use to exchange with me? 50 stalks of interlocking chain herb. This price was high enough, right? That was 50 stalks of black rank medicinal herbs for a high rank pill. No matter how one looked at it, the little stoic crown princess had a better chance of winning. Who would have expected that the little crown princess would shake her head? I already have this kind of black rank medicinal herb. What? Family head Qin widened his eyes and reflexively turned to look at eldest young Sir Qin, who had turned his face to the side. Unfilial son. Completely disregarding the clan's interests and acting willfully and recklessly. If the clan head knew, he would definitely severely punish eldest young Sir, right? Oh wait, the second young Sir was also the one who gave the gift. The 2 young Sirs should be severely punished together. Family head Qin ground his teeth and then asked, wind throat flower. The little stoic shook her head again. After shaking his head several dozen times in a row, Qin Guelu was so infuriated that he wished for nothing more than to immediately jump over and beat eldest Qin up. In the end, he finally reported a black rank material called birth date leaf. The little stoic's eyes brightened slightly, and she nodded, agreeing to family head Qin's request to exchange 50 earth date leaves for 1 prolongation pill. Family head Qin's heart ached, but it was not a loss to exchange for a high-grade life prolongation pill. The rest of the people swarmed over like a swarm of bees, wanting to exchange longevity pills with the little crown princess. However, he was stopped by the crown prince's gaze. Only then did he take a few steps back in embarrassment. Prince Mo led his little wife back to their seats and looked up at the crowd. Those who want to use precious herbs, magic treasures, and forging materials to exchange for longevity pills. When the banquet is over, register yourselves. When the crown princess finds it feasible, she will send someone to inform you to exchange. Only then did everyone excitedly return to their seats. In their hearts, they were all secretly calculating what precious items they should use to exchange for a life-prolonging pill from the crown princess. Commandery Princess Ethan, who was standing in the center of the main hall, had been in a daze for a long time. This continued until the Queen Dowager couldn't stand it anymore and coughed lightly, saying, Ethan, if you don't have any questions, then go down and take a seat. Ethan instantly felt her cheeks burning, and she quickly lowered her head. She quickly strode back to her seat. During the rest of the banquet, Commandery Princess Ethan kept drinking silently with her head lowered, not making any more noise. She truly didn't have the face to make any more noise. Chapter 1437. When the great king saw that the atmosphere was gradually improving, he revealed a smile again and gave Empress Xiao a look. Empress Xiao nodded and ordered for the dancers to perform a birthday dance. All the courtiers stood up in unison to congratulate the Queen Dowager on her birthday. After experiencing some minor twists and turns, the birthday banquet finally ended satisfactorily with both the host and the guests thoroughly enjoying themselves. After the banquet ended, everyone swarmed to the Eastern Palace's junior eunuch, Xiao 11Z, to register their purchase of the prolongation pill. However, Arbor had long impatiently skipped to the red-clothed girl's side. She bit her lips and reached out to her with an aggrieved expression. Doya hastily gave her a big hug and softly said with tears in her eyes, "Little junior sister, it's really great to see you." Arbor also felt that it was very great to see Doya. She originally thought that the entire holy water sect had been massacred to the point that there was no one left except for her. When she suddenly saw Doya, she recalled the red-clothed girl from another tribe she met on the first day she went to the holy water sect 8 years ago. "You're also here to participate in the holy water sect's entrance examination, right? Don't be afraid, just stay by my side. We're from the western region's Alava tribe. I'm called Doya, what about you? What's your name?" Some memories might seem distant, but when she thought about it now, it was as if they happened right before her eyes. They were so fresh that they could be touched. She thought that Doya had long died in that 6 prefectures massacre. She thought that her corpse had long dissipated from the world without a trace. That was because when she finally collected the sect's corpses alone in a daze, she only counted the corpses of 500 disciples. There were too many people who self-detonated in the sect that day, so the life lantern shadows in the ancestral hall were also incomplete. She hadn't seen everyone's life lantern shadows. The little stoic wasn't sure whether Doya was among the group of people who self-detonated. Arbor only felt sad and aggrieved at this moment, and some negative emotions firmly bound her. "Junior sister, don't be sad. If Marshal Uncle's spirit is in heaven, she also wouldn't want to see you like this." Doya reached out and gently patted her back. "Come, let's talk outside." Seeing that some people in the main hall had finished registering and kept glancing at them, Doya pulled the little stoic's hand and led her outside. Actually, they didn't have any ill intentions. It was just that they couldn't help but take a few more curious glances at the stoic-faced crown princess. Prince Mo had been paying attention to his wife's movements, but he did not go over to disturb her reunion with Doya. "Your Highness," and just ran away with her tail between her legs. Huifeng appeared beside Mo Lien and reported with a grin. The good show just now was really a little exciting. And had been publicly slapped in the face by the crown princess several times in a row. Even he felt his face hurt for her. Mo Lien's gaze gradually chilled. "She and the vassal prince of Nan are getting married the day after tomorrow." "That's right, the 10th of June. Mo Lien smirked. "Keep an eye on him. Make sure nothing goes wrong. Let the two of them get married smoothly." "Yes." Huifeng nodded vigorously. Doya pulled her little junior sister along and found a slightly more remote waterside pavilion in Brocade Garden, pulling her into the pavilion. At this time, it was already deep into the night, and the water surface swayed under the moonlight with a gentle breeze. The two of them sat on the bow-shaped bench while leaning against the railing. The Alava tribe's clansmen were all standing far away outside the waterside pavilion, and no one came to disturb the senior sister and junior sister. Chapter 1438. Little Junior Sister. Doya tightly grasped her hands and said in a slightly choked voice, "I knew you would be fine." "Senior sister Doya, can you tell me what happened to you that day?" Doya nodded. "That day, after we bid farewell to you and left Shishia Valley, Aunt Master instructed me to stay outside Shishia Valley. Aunt Master had already guessed that you would follow us out at that time. She wanted me to keep you in Wuxia Valley no matter what method I used and not let you return to the sect. Doya's expression was pained as she recalled that day. I wasn't willing. I wanted to return to the sect with my master. But in the end, I was still kept behind. I waited for you outside Wuxia Valley for 3 days, but I didn't see you come out. I thought that Wuxia Valley's valley master must have blocked you somehow. So I planned to make a trip back to the sect. But on the way back, when I crossed the great swamp by myself, I was surrounded by perils and almost lost my life. Senior sister. The little stoic couldn't bear it anymore and threw herself into her arms with a wah. The two sisters hugged each other and wept bitterly, as if they wanted to vent all of their grievances, pain, and resentment in this lifetime. Thankfully, the summoning talisman you gave me came in handy at that time. I finally wasn't fighting by myself. With a summoned beast accompanying me, I finally ran out of the great swamp after more than 10 days. But when I returned to the sect, I only saw thistles and thorns everywhere, and there wasn't a single person in sight. There was nothing left. Doya's eyes were red, and tears streamed down her face. She pounded her chest and said, I don't know how I managed to hold on at that time. I searched everywhere on the ruined mountain. There wasn't a single survivor. I didn't even find a single one of their corpses. I'm too useless. When Doya said this, she covered her face with both hands. Arbor took out a handkerchief to wipe her face and shook her head. Senior sister, don't say that. Doya exhaled deeply and said, I wanted to seek revenge from the 6 prefectures, but I was alone and weak, and I didn't even know where to find them. My heart is filled with hatred, but I know that it's impossible for me to take revenge alone. So I returned to my tribe. I want to make my tribe stronger. But all these years, we've been in constant conflict with Aikido in the western wastelands. In order to preserve his strength, he had no choice but to hide and wait for an opportunity to become stronger. At this point, Doya's face was filled with dejection as she lowered her head. But the resources in the western wastelands are scarce, and the strength of our clansmen is far behind that of the Aikido tribe. Reality is just so frustrating. Doya turned her head and pulled out a bleak smile at Arbor. Even if you risk your life and want to climb the peak step by step. Without that opportunity and resources, it's useless no matter what you say. During this time, I remembered that Master mentioned that your home is in Shijo City. I was worried about you, so I thought of going to Shijo City to look for you and try my luck. Maybe I'll really find you. At that time, we sisters won't be alone anymore. If there's anything, we can discuss it. Unfortunately, I didn't find you in Shijo City. After that, the Aikido tribe kept pressing on. I was exhausted from running for my life, leading the people of our tribe to hide here and there. Heh, junior sister, am I very useless? Chapter 1439. Arbor forcefully shook her head again and again. Doya looked at her and smiled again. During Northern Mo's Queen Dowager's birthday this time, I recalled your relationship with Mo Kingdom's crown prince. I only came here with the idea of seeing if I could meet you, but I didn't expect. Junior sister, I'm really happy. My decision this time was finally correct. These years, Aikido has always chased after us. On the way here, I was still thinking about what to do if we encountered those Aikido barbarians to minimize our tribe's losses. But I didn't expect that the entire journey would be so smooth and that we wouldn't encounter those Aikido lunatics. When Doya said this, a flowery smile blossomed on her face. She tightly grasped Arbor's small hand and said, I'm guessing that Aunt Master, and the others must be blessing me from the heavens, allowing us to reunite here. Arbor nodded vigorously. Doya smiled and rubbed her small head. For a moment it was as if they had returned to the past. The sisters cried and laughed for a while before wiping away their tears and restraining their emotions. Doya suddenly gnashed her teeth and said, Junior sister, later, did you see that beast Yi Lingmin? Arbor shook her head. After that, I didn't see her at all. She actually disappeared without a trace after causing such a huge disaster. After the sect was massacred, she didn't even show up. If I meet her, I'll definitely kill her and clean up the sect. The little stoic didn't say anything and only lowered her small head listlessly. Junior sister, you mustn't sympathize with her. Although she's your third senior sister, she's also the main culprit behind the sect's destruction. Doya understood this little fellow too well. Although she had a cold face, her heart was warm, especially toward the sect. She had an unforgettable feeling. Think of eldest senior sister Su Shanshan, second senior sister Xue Xiao, eldest Ant Master, and your two Ant Masters. Who didn't leave innocently? Junior sister, we mustn't be soft-hearted toward this person. Because all of this was caused by Yi Lingmin. Even if us senior and junior sisters join hands to kill her, she only has herself to blame and can't blame anyone else. Doya gazed icily at the surface of the water before her before turning around to firmly grasp Xiao Mu's small hand. Xiao Mu subconsciously nodded her small head. Doya calmed her emotions and suddenly took out a letter from her inner world, placing it in the little stoic's hand. Junior sister, Ant Master left you a letter before she left. This letter has been in my hands for 8 years. Today, I can finally give it to you. Xiao Mu impatiently tore open the letter and read it line by line, word by word. The letter read, Disciple, let me guess. You are reading the letter while scolding me for being a big liar. Yes, Master is a liar. Master has indeed deceived you this time. If there was a 1 in a billion chance, Master would never abandon you. Every time I think of you being alone in the future, I feel as if a knife is being twisted in my heart. But disciple, you have to promise Master that even if you're the only one left in the sect, you have to live on well. During your most difficult time, Master feels guilty for not being able to stay by your side. But you have to believe that you have to face any obstacles by yourself and walk through them with large strides. On the path of cultivation, what we cultivate is both the body and the heart. Only with a strong heart can we face anything fearlessly in the future. Chapter 1440. If you must go to the 6 prefectures continent, then go to Shantian Prefecture's lava mountain range first and enter a top-notch academy to study for a while. You only need to show the pine jade bracelet I gave you to the headmaster of the top-notch academy, and he will naturally take good care of you on my behalf. I know that with your personality, you definitely won't let the matter of the sect go. But my disciple, you must remember that before you become strong, you must not speak lightly of revenge. Also, don't act rashly without understanding the situation of the 6 prefectures. Only by preserving your strength will you have a future and hope. Everything about the Holy Water sect will be entrusted to you. The final signature was, Miss your master, Murong Sun. The little stoic's gaze paused on the words, Miss your master. Unwittingly, tears splashed onto the letter, nearly blurring the word, master. She hastily blinked and wiped away the moisture on the letter. She blew on it before folding the letter and putting it away. She muttered to herself, big liar. She originally thought she would never cry again, but she didn't expect her tears to come so abruptly when she saw Murong Sun's letter. Doya wrapped her arms around her shoulders and patted her comfortingly. Little junior sister, what did eldest Ant Master say? The little stoic mentioned the top-notch academy that Murong Sun mentioned in her letter to Doya. Could the headmaster of this top-notch academy be eldest Ant Master's old friend? Doya exclaimed in surprise. I don't know. Arbor shook his head. There's still a month before the normal passage between the 6 prefectures and the lower star domain opens. I plan to go up the passage and go to the 6 prefectures continent. When Arbor said this, he recalled how the prefecture lord of Shantian Prefecture intended to control his life, and new and old grudges surged into his heart. I won't let a single one of those people off. All right, I'll go with you. Doya looked down at herself. I only heard that to enter the passage, one must have sensed the power of the 5 spirits. Unfortunately, I still haven't. Arbor blinked. There's still a month's time. Senior Sister Doya, don't worry. If you really can't, I'll bring you to the 6 prefectures continent first. It'll be much easier to sense the power of the 5 spirits there. After all, in the lower starfield, it was basically impossible to sense the origin energy of the 5 spirits. Currently, Senior Sister Doya's cultivation was a level 12 mystic cultivator, so she still had to raise it a bit more. The little stoic tilted her head and glanced at Doya before taking out several bottles of pills and a handful of talismans from her pocket and stuffing them all into Doya's hands. Senior Sister, here are 2 bottles of energy-gathering pills and a level 13 mystic breakthrough pill. Try and see if you can raise your profound strength to the 13th level within this month. At that time, when we go to the 6 prefectures continent, you can also break through to the spirit realm in the shortest time possible. If I haven't reached the 13th level of cultivation, how can I go to the 6 prefectures continent? Doya muttered in confusion, and then she was overjoyed as she reached out and held up a pile of medicinal pills. So many talismans. After you activate the talisman with your blood, it will form a mystic guiding talisman array to help you cultivate. Alright. Junior Sister, there's still a month left. I'll definitely work hard. My clansmen are. Don't worry, I'll get someone to take good care of them. Doya nodded with a smile. The 2 of them looked at each other and read a trace of determination and hope in each other's eyes. 6 prefectures, just you wait. Chapter 1441. After dismissing everyone, Mo Lien waited for his wifey in a corner of Brocade Garden. He knew that Jojo and his senior sister should have a lot to talk about after reuniting after a long time, so he was not in a hurry. However, he flung off a transparent chain on his wrist and sighed. Give me 1 more month. You, was a smart child. In these 2 months, he had continuously arranged all kinds of political affairs for him. Although he did not say anything, this child had probably already guessed his objective. He would leave, but not right now. However, this heavenly law was very annoying and wanted to drag him away from time to time that he reckoned that the seal inside his body would not last another month. Sigh, he had to continue holding on even if he couldn't. Mo Lien abruptly turned his head, and without even looking, he directly kicked out. Ah! After letting out a delicate cry of surprise, Commandery Princess Yi-Pen fell to the ground in resentment. The sharp pebbles on the ground had scratched out faint bloody marks on her hands. Your Highness. Commandery Princess Yi-Pen's tears came on a whim. Unfortunately, other than his wifey, any other woman's tears were worthless in the Crown Prince's eyes. Commandery Princess Yi-Pen was wearing a peach-pink chiffon that could barely conceal her beautiful figure. She knelt on the ground with a tear-stained face and resentful eyes. Why was that man still indifferent towards her even though she had lowered her status and pride to throw herself at him? She had no more time. She was going to marry into the vassal king of Nan's estate the day after tomorrow, but she was unwilling. She was also completely helpless, which was why she took the risk in desperation to get close to this man who was as handsome as a god. She wanted to become his, even if it was as a beloved concubine. Right now, her entire body was covered in that kind of drug. She wanted him to fiercely possess her. She had already thrown caution to the wind and was already shameless. She only wanted to become His Highness the Crown Prince's woman, but why? Why was His Highness the Crown Prince still so disdainful towards her even at a time like this? Could it be that she was not beautiful? If it was any other man present today, they would not be able to restrain themselves from pouncing on her after seeing her attire that was as beautiful as peaches and plums. But only His Highness, that heartless and callous His Highness. If she's so unbearably lonely, then I'll send her to consummate her marriage with the vassal prince of Nan in advance. The Crown Prince brushed off the white powder on his sleeves. After some thought, he tore off a piece of his sleeve and threw it on the ground. "Yes, Your Highness." Hui Feng immediately walked up nimbly and picked up Commandery Princess Yi-en. "No, no." When Commandery Princess Yi-en heard the man's heartless words, her entire body started trembling. Her eyes contracted in horror as she shook her head repeatedly and screamed. She didn't want to become the vassal prince of an Nan's woman. Although the vassal prince of an Nan was considered handsome and the vassal prince of an Nan's estate was considered influential, the vassal prince of an Nan, Cho Fu, couldn't even compare to a single finger of His Highness the Crown Prince. She, Commandery Princess Yi-en, had sworn to become the most honorable woman in the world. She could not let the vassal prince of an Nan ruin her like this. Don't. Commandery Princess Yi-en shrieked in horror, but Hui Feng directly knocked her unconscious with a karate chop. After picking up this pretentious woman, Hui Feng turned around and jumped onto the roof. By the time Arbor arrived, this farce had already completely ended. There was only a faint smell of aphrodisiac left in the air. Chapter 1442. What's that smelly smell? The little one puffed up her cheeks and grumbled unhappily. She bounced over to Crown Prince's side. The little Crown Princess wrapped her arms around his waist and burrowed her head into his embrace. The Crown Prince's heart was about to be melted by her. He hugged her back and cried out in grievance, "Xiao Xiao, when you weren't here just now, a female scoundrel came over and wanted to drug me, but I kicked her away." Arbor looked up at him, her eyes round and bright. "Where is she?" She was going to kill her. She could tell that this drug wasn't anything good just by smelling it. With such strong effects, it wasn't good for the body. She hurriedly fanned her hands in front of Crown Prince to help him get rid of the smell of the drug. "Does it hurt?" "It hurts. My whole body is burning up." Crown Prince took the opportunity to rub against the little one. "What should I do, Jojo?" Arbor rolled her eyes and pushed his handsome face away. "Stop pretending. You have the drug in your body. Unless it's a neurotoxin like the devil's grass, all other drugs won't work on you." "Burning up. Humph. Big liar still wants to trick Jojo. Moreover, as his drug improves, neurotoxins like the devil's grass won't be able to do anything to him in a while. Sigh, my wife is too smart. I can't fool her." Mo Lien looked at her helplessly. "Jojo, have you finished talking to your senior?" Arbor looked at him with bright eyes. "Mo Lien, there's something I need to tell you." "Okay. Let's talk on the way." Crown Prince Mo grasped her soft, petite hand and pulled her onto the royal carriage, heading straight for the Eastern Palace. Arbor thought for a moment and said, "Mo Lien, the normal passage between the 6 prefectures and the lower star sector will open at the beginning of July, right?" Mo Lien was startled when he heard this, and then he nodded. "Are you planning to go to the 6 prefectures continent?" Arbor nodded her head vigorously. Whether it was for public or private reasons, she had to find the Shantian prefecture's prefecture lord to settle accounts. She had to find him to settle the grudges between her past life and this one. "All right." Mo Lien nodded without hesitation. Since the little one had already made her decision, he would support her unconditionally. Plus, with her talent of 3 out of 5, going to the 6 prefectures to cultivate would only be beneficial to her. If it's a normal passageway, as long as one's profound strength is at the 13th level or above, and is able to sense even a trace of the 5 spirits' power, they will be able to go up. Mo Lien said with a smile. "You've already met the requirements, so it won't be difficult for you to go up. At that time, the normal passageway will open above our Mo Kingdom capital." The 3,000 steps that appeared were called the Stairway to Heaven. You just have to climb up. For someone like you who already possesses the power of the 5 spirits, this is not difficult at all. Arbor looked at him with bright eyes and shrank into his arms. "Let's go together." Or do you need to take care of some matters before coming to find me? The tiny northern Prince Mo couldn't keep northern Prince Mo. With his cultivation, he definitely couldn't stay here for long. Rather than letting heavenly law drag him away, he might as well obediently go up himself. Prince Mo's breathing stopped slightly. He gazed at his little wife in his arms tenderly and said, "Jojo, there's something I must tell you as well." Speak. I. Just as the words were about to come out of his mouth, Prince Mo couldn't help but chuckle as he gazed at her large, bright, curious eyes. He lifted his arms and hugged her, saying, "It's fine, I'll go with you. I'll accompany you wherever you go." Chapter 1443. Boom! A white light flitted across the horizon, turning the dark night into day in a split second. Why is there thunder all of a sudden? Arbor looked up at the sky in bewilderment. Prince Mo looked up at the pitch-black night before lowering his gaze and squeezing Arbor's small hand silently. "Jojo. I will always be by your side." Mo Lien patted her head. "Okay." Arbor nodded. She hugged his arm and leaned against him, squinting her eyes as she gazed at the stars in the distance. "In this lifetime, my life will no longer be controlled by others." Arbor muttered to herself as she hugged his arm. She tilted her head and rested her head on it, looking like she had fallen asleep as the carriage moved slowly. Mo Lien turned to look at her before simply pulling her into his arms and adjusting her into a comfortable sleeping position. It was a quiet night. Under the stillness of the night, the towering palace walls in the distance were dimly illuminated by the dusky palace lanterns. The carriage wheels rolled across the corridor paved with yellow marble, exiting splendid garden and heading for the eastern palace. The two people's figures drew out two oblique shadows on the ground. The starlight shone, stacking together in a sticky manner. The vassal king of Nan's estate. It was late at night. Inside vassal Prince Cho Fu's room, it was currently the time of spring. Just now, someone had thrown Commandery Princess an inside from outside the window, giving Cho Fu a false alarm. When he chased after her, she had already disappeared without a trace. However, he saw that the beauty's clothes were half exposed under the lamplight. She was incomparably beautiful, and most importantly, she had even thrown herself into his arms. In a moment of impulsiveness, Cho Fu carried this woman, who would be marrying into the vassal king's estate the day after tomorrow, into the back room. In any case, she was the one who initiated it, and they were about to get married, so Cho Fu didn't care that much. Everything was fine at first, right? The two of them hugged each other and rolled around in bed. It was nothing much. Most importantly, that Commandery Princess and actually called out the words, "Your Highness the Crown Prince," when the vassal prince of Nan was very pleased that it was as if a bucket of ice water had been poured on young Master Chow's 80 feet tall fire. Fuck, he had spent so much effort in the middle of the night, and this woman still thought that the person she had slept with was the Crown Prince? This was intolerable. No man would be able to tolerate this. There was a fucking green grassland above him, and the horses were galloping. Vassal Prince Cho immediately slapped the dazed Commandery Princess awake. Unexpectedly, after the princess woke up, she was even worse off. When the princess discovered that her virginity, which she had preserved for 17 to 18 years and wanted to offer to the person she admired, had been ruined by this vassal prince of Nan. It was over. The princess let out a mournful shriek that was comparable to a nightingale's mournful wail, and it immediately jolted everyone in the vassal prince's courtyard awake from their sweet dreams. The princess immediately pounded the vassal prince of Nan's chest with her small fists as if she had gone mad. She even kicked him off the bed, throwing a tantrum. The vassal prince of Nan's flock of concubines even thought that a thief had broken into the vassal prince's room. When they barged in after knocking on the door, they saw this strange scene. The vassal prince had fallen naked on the ground, and he was currently curled up with his back arched. He was clutching his thing, and the veins on his forehead were bulging from the pain. Meanwhile, that naked whatever commandery princess was currently kneeling on the bed. When she saw so many women rushing in, she immediately let out another hoarse shriek. Chapter 1444. Ah! This shrill scream immediately attracted a large number of royal guards from outside the courtyard. The vassal prince of Nan's face had turned green from anger. He pointed shakily at the door and shrieked, "Close the door, close the door." Slap! The concubines quickly closed the door for the vassal prince. The vassal prince stood up stark naked. His entire body was trembling from the pain, and he was so angry that he had lost all face. He walked up to the commandery princess and roared, "En! Blurg!" Commandery princess and immediately spat out a mouthful of filth. It all landed on the vassal prince of Nan's face. The group of concubines looked at each other in bewilderment. En! The vassal prince of Nan was nearly disgusted to death. He wiped his face, but he still felt that his hands and body were emitting a foul stench. The vassal prince let out a furious roar and took out an ox whip from his inner world with a flip of his hand. He then swung it directly at commandery princess Anne's naked body. Ah! Ah! Commandery princess Anne screamed as she dodged. She suddenly lunged forward like a madwoman and grabbed the vassal prince's head, biting at his chin. Ow! Ow! The vassal prince screamed in pain. Who the hell knew how miserable he was today? Did this Anne go crazy? She wasn't the one throwing herself at him. She was the one who took the initiative to invite him to roll in the sheets, all right? What was wrong with her now? She was going back on her word after doing it. As the two people overlapped, the vassal prince lost his balance and fell backward, causing Anne to sit heavily on his abdomen. Subsequently, the vassal prince's expression changed. His eyebrows were crooked as he bared his teeth and screamed, "Ow!" It felt like that thing was about to be crushed. Go to hell. The naked commandery princess Anne abruptly punched the vassal prince's left eye heavily. The vassal prince fell backward in response, and the back of his head smashed heavily onto the floor tiles with a thump. Cough, cough. Arbor didn't even know when he returned to the Eastern Palace last night. When he woke up, Arbor lowered his head and looked at himself. He was nestled in the big bed made of agarwood, clean and tidy. Did little Emo secretly change her clothes yesterday? Miss, you're awake now. Peony smiled as she lifted the curtain and walked in. You slept well last night, didn't you? It's okay, Arbor said embarrassedly, looking around. Where's Emo Lien? His Highness has been teaching the 12th Prince how to handle government affairs these days. Both of them are probably still in the Great King's imperial study. Oh. Arbor nodded and stole a glance at Xiaoyao. He coughed softly and said, Xiaoyao, when did I come back yesterday? About 1:00 in the morning. Xiaoyao walked up with the clothes in her hands with a chuckle. However, before she could get close to the bed, the clothes in her hands had already been taken away. When she looked back, she saw that maid Haitang walking up methodically and reaching out to help her miss get up. Yet Xiao Mu rolled over and sat up, jumping off the bed with a stomp of her legs and running to the side. Haitang quickly chased after her with the clothes and advised seriously, Crown Princess, you have to get used to Haitang's existence. In a few days, Xiaoyao will be going back to prepare for her wedding. His Highness the Crown Prince instructed Haitang to do everything personally in the future and not let the Crown Princess get involved if she can help it. Chapter 1445. Arbor. Thank God I'm not a useless person. Xiaoyao was also behind him and she couldn't help but twitch her lips. His Highness must be out of his mind to actually send Haitang to the Crown Princess's side. Then you can just send Peony, Duwan or Camellia and Osmanthus over. Crown Princess, you can't touch this. Haitang, come here. Crown Princess, don't touch that. Hai Tang, come here. Crown Princess, put it down. Crown Princess, don't. The young Crown Prince Consort pattered out the door and slammed the door of the Eastern Palace's bedchamber with a loud bang. With a deafening sound. Xiao Yao pursed her lips speechlessly. As soon as she turned around, she saw Hai Tang glaring at her with an honest and wooden expression. Big sister Xiao Yao, His Highness has instructed you to take your leave starting in 3 days, right? Why aren't you leaving? Xiao Yao, dot. Sister Xiao Yao, this is His Highness's order. Oh. Can you not always add words like, you, and, oh, when you're talking? It made her subconsciously and inexplicably add these 2 words. Xiao Yao wiped her sweat and looked at her worriedly. Suddenly, she had a flash of inspiration and said, His Highness didn't send you to the Crown Princess's side on purpose, did he? The Crown Prince couldn't be thinking of using the wooden and somewhat hilarious Hai Tang to amuse the Crown Princess every day, right? Xiao Yao's lips twitched speechlessly. The more she thought about it, the more likely it was. How would I know? Xiao Yao's outstretched hand hung down speechlessly. She really wanted to ask Hai Tang if she could stop adding suffixes at the end of every sentence. Someone told me that it's more cordial to talk like this. Xiao Yao's head was full of black lines. Arbor was annoyed to death by this Hai Tang. He walked all the way out of the door. She entered the small garden from outside the palace walls and strolled for a short while before she saw 2 plump eunuchs leading the Aikido tribe's young master ACI and his group. They were currently walking towards her. When Arbor saw this, he immediately turned around and left. She just came out to relax. There was no need for her to argue with a group of people. However, in Assie's eyes, her action of turning around and running away looked like she had a guilty conscience. He immediately shouted, Stop right there. Arbor didn't listen to his nonsense and ran away without a trace. Yas was so angry that smoke almost came out of his head. This little guy was simply too detestable. Big brother Yas, why did you call her? Akir couldn't hide the unbearable jealousy in her eyes. She wasn't stupid. She could see that there was an unusual flame leaping in Yas's eyes toward that little slut, and she especially wanted to extinguish these 2 flames that were slowly rising. Don't talk nonsense. ACI glared at her coldly. Then, his figure flashed and chased after Arbor. Akir angrily stomped her feet. Big brother Ali, look at him. Ali also had a displeased expression on his face. Big brother was too concerned about this northern prince consort Mo. Arbor ran very far away in one breath before stopping. She reached out and took out a teleportation talisman. When she thought about it, this teleportation talisman wasn't reliable. Who knew where it would teleport her? Forget it, let's just leave it at that. Yas, that bull, probably wouldn't shamelessly follow me with his manly tone. The little stoic withdrew her small feet and circled around to another garden, planning to stroll around casually. However, she saw 2 dejected little royal maids walking towards her. One of them was holding a pot of wilted begonia. Chapter 1446. Sigh, what a pity. Nanny Feng even summoned the famous gardeners among the people into the palace. But this jasper begonia still can't be saved. Sigh. Her Majesty the Empress Dowager is going to be in a bad mood. We should be more careful these few days. Nanny Feng told us to throw this pot of flowers far away. This place is far enough, right? Sigh, throw it away, throw it away. The 2 of them put down the pot of jasper begonia and walked away with their heads drooping and sighing. Arbor ran to the jasper begonia and looked at it carefully. Suddenly, she reached out a small, jade-white hand and covered the withered and curled leaves at the top of the begonia. In just a moment, the leaves seemed to have been reborn. They unfolded and turned from yellow to emerald green. Every tender leaf emerged from the stem of the flower. Suddenly, a flower bud emerged from under the emerald green leaves, followed by a second, a third. Several flower buds rolled into a ball and bloomed in unison. ACI, who followed behind, stared blankly at the small figure with her back facing him. At this moment, he only saw a patch of green blooming in front of his eyes. The light green begonia flowers intertwined with the dark green leaves, creating a visual feast. Arbor retracted her small hand and tilted her head to look at the jasper begonia that was blooming in high spirits. She reached out and hugged it in her arms. Send it back to grandmother. The little fellow made up her mind. She turned around and was about to head to the Longevity Palace when she almost bumped into ACI, who was walking quickly over. What are you doing? Darling Xiao pursed her lips, looking like she didn't want to see him, and took a step back. Assie's pupils constricted slightly. He saw that the little girl was wearing a seaweed blue dress and holding a pot of blooming begonia flowers. However, her snow-white face was not inferior to the pot of begonia flowers she was holding. Are you deaf? I told you to stop, but the more I told you to, the faster you ran. ACI quickly averted his gaze and bellowed at Xiao Mu in humiliation, You're purposely pretending that you didn't hear me calling you, right? Arbor threw him a cold look. Excuse me. You haven't answered my question. ACI reached out angrily, wanting to grab her wrist. However, Xiao Mu stomped her leg over, ruthlessly kicking his black boot. Shut up. Who had the time to talk nonsense with this person? Yas laughed instead of getting angry. Do you really think that no one can control you? After saying that, he reached out to grab Arbor. Arbor only felt a strong and powerful force rushing towards him. He was slightly startled and dodged to the side, a trace of anger appearing in his eyes. Originally, she didn't want to argue with this person, but he insisted on finding trouble with her. Since that was the case, then teach. Train. Him. Arbor simply reached out and stored the jasper begonia into his inner world. He summoned the feral from his conscious and leaped into the air to strike Yasa's head. You woman. You're still coming. This scene evoked a strong sense of familiarity in Yasa's heart. Bastard. ACI met the attack with a mystic energy palm strike, but it was instantly neutralized by the little stoic's feral. When the two mystic energies collided, considerable energy ripples rose and fell in the small garden. Arbor reached out to press down a defensive boundary, which protected the nearby plants from harm. A flame as thick as a wrist suddenly sprayed out from the feral and burned toward Assie's chest without warning. It's over, time to wake up. Chapter 1447. This was probably Arbor's smoothest usage of wood spirits to date. With a wave of her small hand, a dozen or so wooden vines shot out from her sleeves. They snaked forward like a dozen whips, lashing out at ACI at the same time. ACI had to dodge the fiery lines from the feral on one hand and evade the entanglement of the wooden vines on the other. This caused his movements to slow down a bit. Arbor took advantage of this opening and quickly summoned the startled swan dagger from her conscious. She suddenly aimed at Assie's chest and stabbed. Yas quickly dodged, barely avoiding the shockingly fast attack. However, the startled swan dagger was too fast. Even though he dodged quickly, the trace of mystic energy on the startled swan dagger had already cut open Assie's heavy clothes and left a faint cut on his chest. Yas glanced down. When he raised his head again, there was a trace of a sneer between his proud brows. What? You want to cut open my clothes and admire my body? If that's the case, you should have said so earlier. Arbor only thought that this person was sick, and quite sick at that. With a raise of her hand, a dozen or so vines shot out from her sleeves and wrapped around Assie's legs. ACI narrowed his eyes and suddenly stomped on the ground. The earth beneath his feet immediately roiled, erecting 3 earthen walls in the blink of an eye. He forced Arbor into the earthen walls and suddenly reached out to grab Arbor's shoulder. Arbor couldn't help but fly into a rage. She threw a backhanded punch at one of the earthen walls. This punch contained no less than 500 kilograms of force. It directly caused the earthen wall to crack a few times and the layer of earth to rustle and fall. It was at this moment that Assie's fingers were about to touch her wrist. Arbor kicked his hand away with a flying kick. She glared at him coldly, her almond eyes blazing with fire. She suddenly activated the teleportation talisman and her figure instantly disappeared from Assie's side. ACI was stunned for a moment before he hurriedly spread out his consciousness to sense where she was. He couldn't help but be shocked and he saw that the little fellow's figure had actually moved several hundred meters away. However, this short distance was not enough to stop him from quickly catching up. After Arbor threw out the 3 teleportation talismans, he discovered a fatal problem. If she was fighting with an enemy and the enemy's speed was extremely fast, then this teleportation talisman would only be able to solve the problem for a moment, and would not be able to completely get her out of danger. That was because the teleportation talisman only had a range of 1,000 meters. Although it could move infinitely, it had no sense of direction. There was no guarantee that it would move out and then move back. When Yas caught up again, he saw the little girl in blue standing along the towering palace wall, staring at him with cold, unblinking eyes. Assie's handsome face darkened as he sneered, "Run. Why aren't you running anymore? I thought you could run really fast." Crack. Yas suddenly felt a slight wind behind his head. His entire body tensed as he abruptly shifted to the side. However, it was too late. A metallic fist had already landed on his back as fast as the wind. ACI grunted and turned his head in a daze. He subconsciously met the golem's icy fist. Ah! After a hoarse eagle cry, a sharp eagle king swooped down from the sky and grabbed the golem's head. However, the golem didn't care about the eagle claw at all and directly threw a punch at ACI. Bang! Chapter 1448. Assie's body swayed slightly, and he couldn't help but curse inwardly that he had almost fallen into the hands of a golem again. That golem was too strange. Not only were its movements smooth, but it also seemed to have unparalleled thinking ability and could come up with a sneaky move from time to make him suffer. Arbor stood on the side and watched Big Treasure and Assie's exchange. His figure suddenly moved, and an icicle flew through the air toward Assie's handsome face. ACI, who was dealing with the golem, was slightly startled and couldn't help but be flustered. As he dodged, that icicle cut Assie's arm again. Arbor creased her brows, seemingly very dissatisfied that her all-out attack only left a bloody mark on Assie's arm. Compared to several years ago in Shuang City, this guy seemed to be much stronger. It was a bit inconceivable. Even if he ate tonics every day, he couldn't possibly advance this quickly. After all, when she fought with ACI in Shuang City, he was like a cripple and was completely suppressed and beaten up by her back then. There was something strange about this guy. However, she also had many fortuitous encounters these past few years, so it didn't mean that ACI couldn't have them too. Big Treasure, attack his lower body. At Xiao Mu's command, the golem immediately swept its leg and kicked at Assie's legs. ACI sneered. When he turned his head, he saw that little stoic swiftly dashing over. With a wave of her sleeve, a white mist suddenly pelted his head and face. Not good, the damn girl was going to use a malicious move again. ACI hastily covered his mouth and nose and blocked his 5 senses, trying his best not to inhale that white mist. However, what was the meaning of that wound on his arm suddenly feeling so painful? Assie's expression changed, and he rushed to Arbor's side with a large stride. He raised his palm, and a copper bangle shot out. Arbor's small hand quickly retracted, but she couldn't stop the copper bangle's speed. Just as that copper bangle was about to wrap around her wrist, a peach-colored figure swayed and appeared next to Arbor. With a flick of her sleeve, a powerful force shook Assie's hand away. At the same time, that copper bangle was tossed into the air with a ding. Assie's eyes changed. He suddenly tore open the void and summoned, Qi Yan, come out. The huge black shadow instantly filled the space. The venerable Peach Blossom Immortal looked at the huge shadow that had suddenly appeared in front of him. It had bull horns on its head and a body like a giant python. His expression changed slightly. Ancient python bull. Why would a sacred beast like the ancient python bull appear here? While he was distracted, he heard a whoosh sound. That copper cuff descended from above and abruptly wound around Xiao Mu's slender wrist, trapping her firmly in place at once. Young master! The golem arbor roared. Just as he was about to pounce forward, he saw Yast take a misstep and close in on Arbor's side. His hand suddenly pressed down on Arbor's left shoulder. Damned girl, you poisoned me again. Yast coughed twice, feeling as if the pain all over his body had multiplied countless times. Not only was the wound on his arm unbearably painful, even the cut on his chest was starting to hurt fiercely. ACI also had a copper bangle on his hand. His other hand moved to Arbor's neck and squeezed her slender neck. He sneered. You're certain that I won't kill you, right? Unfortunately, you're still trapped by my dual-star immortal spirit bangle, aren't you? Chapter 1449. Assie's lips curled into a cold sneer. Once the dual-star immortal spirit bracelets encircle you, all your strength will be sealed. How is it? Do you feel terrible without those sharp little claws and fangs? ACI couldn't help but glance at her smugly. Bam! At such a close distance, the little fellow directly raised her violent little fist and punched him in the eye. Ow! How the fuck was this possible? Ah! The dual-star immortal spirit bracelets should have already sealed all the mystic energy aura on this damn girl. She shouldn't be able to use any strength, so why was her fist still so hard? It was practically like jade and directly smashed his eye until it was swollen. ACI reached out his left hand, and the hand encircled by the copper bracelets forcefully tugged at the little girl's right wrist. He saw Arbor staring at him expressionlessly with a stoic little face, but she didn't move at all. She had activated a Vajra talisman and a gravity talisman for herself, so it would be strange if ACI could drag her. Right after that, Arbor sent ACI flying with a flying kick. However, their wrists were locked together by the copper bracelets, so if she didn't run after ACI when he flew, her wrists would be pulled until they were close to breaking. The unbearable pain was unbearable. Undo it. Darling Qiao was furious. Her left fist encircled with the Vajra talisman struck Assie's face like raindrops. Stop it, stop it, stop it. Hearing the commotion, Ali and Akir, who had rushed over after hearing the news, ran over one after the other. Their eyes widened in horror as they pounced forward to separate the two people. Especially Akir, when she saw Darling Qiao squatting next to ACI and forcefully punching his face, she almost went crazy. She hugged Assie's body and pulled him back with all her might. ACI groaned in pain. His hand was about to break from being pulled by this stupid woman. Arbor was in even more unbearable pain. She was anxious, angry, hateful, and angry, and a ruthless glint appeared in her eyes. Her startled swan dagger swiftly flew out and stabbed straight at Akir's neck, communicating with her mind. Akir! Ali cried out in alarm and pulled Akir over. The startled swan dagger brushed past his shoulder, leaving behind a deep bloody gash with a swoosh. It could be seen how fast and cold this dagger was. The young crown princess wanted to take Akir's life directly. What kind of deep hatred is this? How could you be so ruthless to Akir? You vicious woman! Ali was like a lion whose tail had been stepped on, roaring angrily. I want all of you to die. Arbor bellowed angrily. The little stoic's face was ablaze with viciousness, and the substantial killing intent in her eyes instantly shut Ali's mouth. He was extremely alarmed. As it turned out, the little stoic wasn't an expressionless person. When she got angry, she was really quite terrifying. "Kill them all!" Arbor roared. An extremely thin white snake suddenly burrowed out of the paradise and transformed into a huge python, heading straight for Yas, who was sitting on the ground, to devour him. The gaping mouth caused the Yas siblings to feel fear in their hearts. "No, don't!" Akir screeched. Sensing that its master's life was in danger, the ancient python bull hastily retracted its tail, abandoning the venerable peach blossom immortal who was tangled with it. It roared angrily and swiftly slithered toward the little white snake. "Little Mingming, quickly dodge." This ancient python bull had already entered the initial stage of growth, so its strength was naturally much higher than the little white snake that had just entered the holy beast level and was only at the initial stage of infant stage. Chapter 1450. If they fought it head-on, not only would both sides suffer, the little white snake might even lose its life. Even the venerable peach blossom immortal had to be careful when dealing with this ancient python bull, let alone an infant great void netherworld serpent. Fortunately, this ancient python bull had yet to reach the middle stage of its growth stage. Otherwise, even the venerable peach blossom immortal would be in trouble. Compared to humans, sacred beasts' physical bodies and strength were incomparable. Roar! The ancient python bull's roar stunned everyone present. Even Qiuqiu, Qing Wan, and the others who had just run out also stopped in their tracks and looked at it cautiously. Cough, cough. ACI half-squatted on the ground and pushed the python bull's head away, preventing it from attacking Arbor. I'm fine." Arbor tugged at the bronze bracelet on his wrist. His eyes were red with anger. Suddenly, he shouted, "Let go, let go, let go. Let go. Let go, let go." His voice became louder and louder. Arbor shook the bronze bracelet on his wrist in agitation, as if it was being grabbed by a ghost. He tried to break free with all his might. There were red marks where the bracelet connected to his wrist. On his snow-white hand, it was a ghastly sight. The venerable peach blossom immortal sensed that something was wrong with the little fellow's emotions. He quickly came to her side and grabbed her little hand. Jojo, be good. Don't panic. Jojo, there's a way. There's a way." Yas simply sat cross-legged behind the python bull and endured the pain all over his body. He coughed twice and couldn't help but laugh out loud. "What can I do? Unless our minds are connected, there's no way to undo it." The venerable peach blossom immortal turned his head and shot a cold gaze at ACI. "Shut up." He stepped forward and kicked ACI's chest. This kick was so fast that the python bull could not stop it in time. When the kick landed on ACI's chest, he felt his blood churn and blood trickle from the corner of his mouth. Roar! The mountain-sized python bull straightened its body and glared at the venerable peach blossom immortal with its ferocious eyes. "Disgusting! Disgusting! Disgusting! Disgusting!" Arbor's small face scrunched up. His eyes were red as he shook his wrist. Seeing that there was no way to take that thing away from her wrist, her expression turned serious. She suddenly recalled the startled swan dagger and cut it off her wrist. However, a spiritual item like the startled swan dagger had already gained sentience. How could it bear to cut off its young master's wrist? The dagger was about to touch her wrist when it paused. Shocked, the venerable peach blossom immortal hurriedly grabbed her right hand, which was wearing the bronze bracelet, and exclaimed, "No. Jojo's dual-star immortal spirit bracelets are no ordinary profound armaments. They can be big or small. Even if you cut off your wrist, they can still fit on your upper arm." On the other hand, Yas, who was sitting on the ground with his wrist raised high, looked at the fierce and decisive little girl in front of him with a sour feeling in his heart. Just now, she actually wanted to break her own wrist without hesitation, just because she didn't want to be tied to him. Why was there a sharp pain in his heart? Where did this uncomfortable feeling come from? Did she hate him so much so that she was willing to harm herself just to leave him? Ah! Arbor screamed uncontrollably. At this moment, there was no one in front of her, ACI, Akir, or Ali. She only saw herself tied to a stone bed, her hands and feet firmly bound to the stone bracelets. Chapter 1451. She only saw Fan Chioha smiling gently at her. He raised the tool in his hand, cut open her body, and rummaged through her dantian for something. Ah! Arbor, who had lost control, stared straight ahead in horror. There, the person sitting there was no longer Yas. In Arbor's eyes, ACI was Fan Chioha, Akir was also Fan Chioha, and Ali was still Fan Chioha. Many Fan Chioha were grinning maliciously at her in front of her. She frantically swung the bronze bracelet on her wrist and screamed, Fan Chioha, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill you, Fan Chioha. Ha! Jojo. Mo Lien, who had heard the news, couldn't believe what he was seeing. When he left the bedchamber in the morning, his baby was still fine. She was sleeping quietly and adorably while hugging the blanket. What was going on now? It was as if she had suddenly contracted bipolar disorder. She was mutilating her arms uncontrollably. If the venerable Peach Blossom Immortal hadn't grabbed her and firmly held her trembling hands, the little fellow might have fractured her arms. Jojo. Mo Lien hurriedly rushed over and hugged her in his arms. He hurriedly comforted her. Jojo, it's okay, it's okay. Jojo, look at me. Jojo, I'm Lien. Jojo. Arbor's eyes were as deep as a vast expanse of smoke. They were so dark that it was as if she had fallen into an abyss. Mo Lien didn't say anything. He still hugged Arbor with one hand and raised a ball of purple flames with the other. He threw it directly at ACI. Whoosh! The rising purple flames condensed into a ball and pounced straight at ACI's head. What this attack wanted was his wretched life. Big brother! Ali screamed. Without waiting for him to step forward and protect him with his life, the mountain-like boa lifted its head. Roar! The python bull swallowed the purple flame in one gulp. Then, its expression changed again and again. It roared a few times before opening its mouth and spitting out the flame. However, this ball of flame was no longer purple. Instead, it was suffused with traces of gold. With a pa sound, it landed at Mo Lien's feet and melted a bluestone brick on the ground. Ancient Python Bull. Mo Lien sneered and looked up at Yas. Did you bully my Jojo with this animal? Bah, who's bullying who? You'd better figure it out. Yas laughed instead of getting angry. At this moment, Arbor, who had been quiet for a while, began to fling his wrists as if he had gone crazy. His eyes trembled slightly as he muttered to himself, don't tie me up, I'm going to kill you. Jojo. Mo Lien reached out and grasped his wrists tightly. She stared at the large red marks on his wrists, and a trace of heartache flitted across his eyes. Jojo, don't be afraid. We'll definitely find a way to undo this, Jojo. Mo Lien impatiently comforted the little fellow in her arms. A black flame quietly lit up on her fingertips. A sudden clap of thunder flashed across the horizon. The venerable Peach Blossom Immortal's eyelids twitched slightly. He hurriedly reached out and pressed down on Mo Lien's restless hand. Don't be rash. Don't attract the heavenly Tao, ah. Besides, burning this fellow to death is even more troublesome now. It's even more impossible to remove the twin star immortal spirit bracelets. I feel that what Jojo hates the most is not being tied up with this fellow, but the bracelets on his wrist. Chapter 1452. Was that really the case? The dejected Assie's ears twitched involuntarily when he heard the venerable Peach Blossom Immortal's words. He suddenly looked up at them. However, the venerable Peach Blossom Immortal and Mo Lien were not looking at him. Instead, they were staring at the copper bangles on their hands. The copper bangles looked very ordinary. Between the two copper bangles was a copper rope that was not too long. However, this pair of seemingly ordinary copper bangles was actually a spirit weapon. Mo Lien frowned as she pondered over a solution. Does the little fellow still have some inner demons? The venerable Peach Blossom Immortal asked as he looked at Prince Mo thoughtfully. If that's the case, it's not good. If the inner demons are allowed to grow to a certain stage, it will greatly affect the speed of her cultivation in the future. It might even affect the refinement of her mental state. Mo Lien was silent for a moment before she said coldly, "No. Forget it if you don't want to talk about it." The venerable Peach Blossom Immortal turned to look at Arbor. Take her back first. However, when Mo Lien picked up Arbor and saw the burden beside her, she wanted nothing more than to burn this person to ashes with her sacred fire. The group returned to the Eastern Palace in silence. Everyone in the palace knew about the huge commotion that had happened just now. After setting Xiao Mu down on the brocade divan, Mo Lien hastily covered her wrists with a blanket to prevent her from staring. Assie's entire body was in pain. The little fellow had poisoned him with a poison that infinitely increased the pain in his nerves. Although he had a poison-repelling fruit in his body that could cure hundreds of poisons, this neurotoxin was not ordinary. Even if he wanted to neutralize it, it would take time. The process was excruciating and painful, but ACI did not make a sound. Only cold sweat kept breaking out on his head. The python ox, which had shrunk to the size of a chirp, knew that its master was in a bad situation. It circled around Assie's feet with a gloomy expression. ACI endured the pain all over his body. Just as he was about to sit down on the couch, Missouri Lien, who could not bear it any longer, kicked him, causing him to fall to the ground. "Ao!" The python ox roared angrily. The copper rope wasn't long to begin with, so Arbor's little hand moved slightly. Seeing that he was about to pull on her wrist again, Mo Lien hurriedly dragged ACI a little closer. ACI felt like he was a tool that was being dragged around by that damned man. "Jojo, don't be afraid. If worse comes to worst, I'll just reforge this spiritual weapon. Inject a trace of your aura into it and let it become your spiritual tool. That way, you will definitely be able to unlock it." Mo Lien pondered for a moment and felt that this was the fastest and most convenient way to unlock it. Arbor stared at the beam above his head with a pair of clear black and white eyes. No one knew what he was thinking. It was just that his silence made everyone feel a little stifled in their hearts. It was as if he had suddenly lost his vitality, making people feel very uncomfortable. Inner demons must be eliminated. This can't go on. The venerable Peach Blossom Immortal couldn't help but say, "Do you know what inner demons are?" He fled to the middle 6 prefectures. Mo Lien's eyes flickered. "But I think he's not the only one." "What do you mean?" The venerable Peach Blossom Immortal asked, stunned. "You're right. Inner demons must be eliminated. No matter who it was, if they became Jojo's inner demon, only death awaited them. No matter how many people there are, they must all die." Qin Xian suddenly woke up from her dream. Her demonic eyes widened as she stared blankly at the dark night sky outside the window. That dream just now was so terrifying. See you tomorrow. Chapter 1453. In the depths of Qin Xian's eyes, a dim green light flashed. He hurriedly sat up and walked to the window. He pulled out a thin silk robe and looked at the night sky outside the window in a daze. What? It's already dark. Pushing open the door, he had just taken a step out when he saw a figure about his height appear in front of him. The figure flashed past his eyes and then passed by. Dark purple clothes, a tall figure, and that back view, at first glance, was exactly the same as his own figure. What's going on? Could it be the same as last time, that he was still in a dream and had not escaped? Omega Kotoku stared blankly and hurriedly chased after him. Taking a deep breath, Chin Xian followed the person in front of him into an underground dark room. This dark room was divided into several sealed cells along the stone wall. At a glance, it was pitch black and seemed to have no end. When the person in front of him walked past, suddenly, an unkempt face covered in grease appeared at the small window of the iron door. He shouted hoarsely, "Let me out, let me out." The person in front of him walked past without looking sideways. Chin Xian's footsteps paused. When he approached the window, he subconsciously looked back. His line of sight met with two broken eyes with their eyeballs dug out. Slightly startled, he hurriedly walked forward. But before he reached the last sealed cell, he saw the figure slowly walking over with something in his arms. Chin Xian stared blankly and stood in the long, dark corridor. As the other person slowly walked closer, he saw his appearance clearly and his heart thumped. Sure enough. It's me. If that's the case, he should still be in a dream. What kind of dream is this? Why can he see it so clearly? It's like he's looking at his past self as a bystander. He saw that when the other him in the dream walked over with someone in his arms, he did not notice his existence at all. When he slowly passed by him, Chin Xian could not help but subconsciously turn his head to take a look. With this look, he was stunned on the spot. What did he see? Although that little face was thin and sallow, and the eyes were sunken and lifeless due to hunger. But that pair of clear black and white eyes, and that skinny and lusterless little face, was clearly. Mu Xiaobao himself? No, it was Arbor. Why is Arbor here? At this moment, Chin Xian's heart seemed to be gripped by something, and she felt extremely uncomfortable. He even wanted to shout out loud, as if that would release the pent-up frustration in his chest. However, the scene in front of him dissipated like water ripples, and he felt dizzy. When he opened his eyes again, the scene in front of him shocked him. My Joe's section break, rumble. The wooden wheelchair was pushed to the shore and stopped. A woman in a light green casual robe with a long skirt that reached the ground touched the unique bun on her head and walked to the beach. She narrowed her eyes and looked at a large cargo ship coming from afar. She chuckled and said, "The ship is here." Arbor could only move her little head. The woman was standing against the light. She only felt that the 5-fortune jade hairpin inlaid with large pearls on her head was emitting a dazzling luster under the sun. Then she looked at her own tattered clothes and her dried-up hair drooping sparsely on her head. He was so envious of this beautiful lady. Why did she make her life so terrible? Chapter 1454. Hey, the cargo ship is about to reach the shore. I'll send you up in a moment and let you leave this place as you wish, okay? The woman giggled and turned around to look at her with a gentle and charming gaze. Don't worry, I'll see this through to the end. I'll send an old nanny to take care of your food and lodging in the future. The woman smiled seductively and clapped her hands several times, allowing an old nanny in green with drooping eyebrows to come to her side. As long as you obediently disappear from Xian's side, I'll promise you anything. I guarantee you won't have to worry about food and clothing in the future. The woman giggled and looked at the cargo ship slowly reaching the shore. She gave the old nanny in green with a look. The old nanny nodded knowingly and pushed Arbor's wheelchair toward the ferry. 2 boatmen came over to unload the goods. They bowed and bowed in front of the woman for a while before receiving a bulging money bag. They beamed with joy and said, "Young miss, you also know that women have heavy energy. We boatmen are most afraid of inauspiciousness and generally don't like to bring women along. Hey, you guys send him to Sichuan in a good way. You can ask for as much money as you want. After saying that, the woman took out another money pouch and threw it to the boatman. Alright, Miss Sher, we will definitely send that miss safely to Sichuan. Miss Sher touched the Rui hairpin on her head and nodded with a smile. She watched as the old nanny in green pushed Arbor onto the ship. When they reached the shore, she exhaled and said faintly, I hope you never come back, little pet. The wheelchair scraped across the deck. Several crew members winked at each other and their gazes followed Arbor's wheelchair to the deck. Cough, cough, cough. The old nanny in green coughed a few times and stopped after pushing Arbor onto the deck. The cargo ship had already moved. This ship was 2 stories high and the deck alone was very spacious. Gusts of cold wind blew against her body. Arbor was wearing a thin and pockmarked spring garment. Her eyes were empty as she stared blankly at the sparkling surface of the sea. What a beautiful sea. She hadn't seen it for many years. Being able to die in this place is also pretty good, Xiao Mu muttered to herself. The green-robed old woman was startled. What did you say? How did you know? Madam, can you please throw me into the center of the sea? This way, my body shouldn't be washed up on the shore again. Arbor said faintly, his face unconsciously showing a trace of relief. You. The green-robed old woman couldn't help but be stunned. You. Since you knew that our second miss tricked you onto the boat to take your life, why didn't you ask for help? Why didn't you beg for mercy? Why are you still willing to board the ship? Oh. Arbor uttered a meaningless monosyllabic word and didn't say anything. He closed his eyes as if he was tired and took a deep breath. How long had it been since he breathed in this fresh and slightly salty air? Aren't you afraid of death? The green-robed old woman was startled. She didn't know why, but she felt a little uncomfortable. In their China, a 20-year-old girl's life was just beginning. The average lifespan of a person in China could reach more than 200 years, even if they were ordinary trash. This 20-year-old girl in front of her was like a dry well. There was no trace of life in her eyes. Chapter 1455. Apologies, second miss gave this old servant a death order. The blue-clothed elderly nanny clenched her fist and looked at Arbor with a bit of guilt in her eyes. I can't disobey. Arbor tilted her head and glanced at her. You should be a servant of the Sher family, right? Although I don't know you, I'm very grateful. Don't hesitate. Come. The blue-clothed elderly nanny's heart inexplicably trembled. She didn't know what to say now. A young lady whose life had yet to blossom actually had such a heavy death wish. A powerful faint golden halo of power emerged from the blue-clothed elderly nanny's fist. It was just that this golden color was closer to a faint yellow and was very faint. Arbor closed her eyes and calmly waited for death to descend. She had finally waited for this day. She finally didn't need to struggle at death's door to survive in this world. She could go see little Sixth Zheng, Hua Gu, Captain Gao, and the others. How wonderful. The blue-clothed elderly nanny silently apologized in her mind. Her palm swiftly struck out, and it looked like it was about to land on the back of Arbor's head. A streak of purple-red lightning suddenly enveloped this part of the world. It enveloped the entire cargo ship. What? Several boatmen quickly jumped up from the deck of the ship, gazing blankly at the distant sky. They saw a huge dragon rapidly moving and tumbling through the clouds. Enveloped in bursts of purple mist, it sped toward them at lightning speed. Arbor's expression abruptly changed, and she almost immediately urged, "Hurry, hurry and do it." The blue-clothed elderly nanny inwardly complained incessantly. Currently, her entire body was enveloped by an enormous pressure, so how could she still have the strength to do anything? Heh, forget about doing anything, it was extremely difficult for her to even lift a finger right now. She was completely helpless. Whoosh! A purple figure landed on the deck at an astonishing speed. His entire body was emitting traces of chilling anger. Arbor's pupils contracted, and her body unconsciously tensed up in a defensive posture. All of you must die. The purple-clothed man's cold gaze swept over the green-clothed old nanny and the crew. Suddenly, he flew over with a palm strike, directly sending 3 of the crew members flying, heavily crashing into the ship's mast. The man was like the Grim Reaper. With just a light step, he arrived in front of the other 2 startled crew members. Without waiting for them to kneel down, a pair of hands reached out and grabbed their necks. Like pinching the necks of chicks, with 2 cracking sounds, their necks were crushed at the same time. After he quickly circled around the ship, there were no longer any survivors among the crew. The 2 people on the deck, one standing and one sitting, looked at each other and saw a trace of fear in each other's eyes. However, the old granny in green clothes did not understand. Why was there such panic and fear in this young lady's eyes? Shouldn't she be happy that someone finally came to save her? But her expression actually revealed a deep sense of despair. What was the meaning of this? The old woman knew that her life would end here. Young master. I. She knew that she could no longer explain anything for herself. That cold hand grabbed her head, and the old woman trembled all over. No, don't search my soul. I'll talk, I'll tell you everything. Young master, The purple-clothed man grabbed the old woman's head and searched through her memories. Then, he suddenly turned his head. Wait. Chapter 1456. He smiled at Arbor instead of getting angry. You want to die? Is that so? He bent down and approached her, reaching out to pinch her chin. His smile was very gentle, but it made Arbor's heart turn cold. Xiao Qiao, did I say you could leave? I already said that I'll take good care of you in the future. If I don't force you to call me master, what else do you want? The man's eyes surged with emotions as he stared at her in frustration. I won't marry the Sher family's second Mississippi, I've already promised you everything. What else do you want? Don't push your luck. Xiao Mu abruptly opened her mouth and bit down hard on his slender finger. The force that burst forth from her teeth seemed to wish for nothing more than to bite his finger off. Roar! Seeing that its master was attacked, the purple heaven thunder dragon swooped down from the sky like a reflex. With a sweep of its tail, it directly pulled Arbor and her wheelchair out of the deck. No! Qin Xian's pupils shrank, and he suddenly sat up from the bed. Wiping the cold sweat off his forehead, he looked at the dark night outside the window. He almost couldn't tell if he was still in a dream or had returned to reality. Damn it! He clenched his fists tightly. Thinking back to the moment when Arbor was pulled out of the ship by Zi Xiao, he seemed to have seen a trace of relief in her eyes. She did it on purpose. She deliberately let Zi Xiao attack her, deliberately seeking death. Why? Why didn't she want to live? Qin Xian's mind was in a mess now. Some memories that were both familiar and unfamiliar to him kept popping up in his mind. They were abrupt and natural, as if they were his memories to begin with. He suddenly jumped off the bed, pushed open the door like a madman, and rushed into the night. He kept running until a faint light seemed to appear in front of him. If this dream wanted him to pick up the fragments of his memories piece by piece, then the memory in front of him should also be a part of his memories. Bam! The door was kicked open, and Qin Xian's expression changed. Didn't you say that you didn't have any improper thoughts about him? But why did he insist on bringing you back? Wouldn't it be fine if you just boarded the ship? Why did you come back? Why did you come back? A good-for-nothing like you, who can't even take care of yourself, what qualifications do you have to follow the young master? Ridiculous. Following the woman's questioning, the sound of a whip pierced through the air and lashed out at the frail little body. There was already a pool of blood on the ground. Arbor was curled up on the ground, waiting for the whip to fall. Why wasn't she dead yet? She was sent flying by the lightning dragon. Even with such a huge force, her body was actually not torn apart. Fan Chioha was right. Her body was very strange. Chin Xin rushed over, wanting to reach out and pick up the girl who was like a broken doll. But when his hands passed through the other's shoulders, he realized that he was still in a dream. He stared blankly at the girl who was curled up on the ground like an injured animal. Her eyes were deathly still. However, it was this deathly stillness that deeply burned his heart and even the depths of his soul. "Stop hitting me. Stop hitting him." Chin Xin subconsciously shouted at the woman holding the whip with all her might. Chapter 1457. Jojo. By the time Mo Lien realized that something was wrong, Jojo's body was already very cold to the touch. It was as if his entire body was covered in a layer of ice, and the touch of his skin was bone-chilling. "Don't be afraid, it's okay. Jojo." Mo Lien's hand lit up with a wisp of fire spirit, and she injected it into Arbor's body to help her stabilize her chaotic breathing. Arbor was muttering, "You can't kill me, you can't kill me. Whip. Why does it hurt? If it hurts, why aren't you dead? Why aren't you dead yet? It hurts, whip, ugh." Arbor curled herself into a ball, half bent on the brocade couch like a small shrimp. Her delicate brows were deeply furrowed. Mo Lien panicked when she heard this. "Jojo, who hit you? Who?" She seems to have been possessed by a nightmare. The venerable Peach Blossom Immortal looked disdainfully at the flustered Mo Lien. He directly used a knife to land on the back of Arbor's neck, causing her to pass out. "You!" Mo Lien wanted to flare up, but she realized that Jojo had suddenly stopped making a fuss. He no longer uttered those heart-wrenching murmurs. He calmed his heart, and with a flick of his sleeve, swept her wrinkled little face. He used a sleeping drug, causing her to fall into a deep sleep. A pair of sharp phoenix eyes abruptly shot toward ACI, who was sitting on the carpet beside the brocade couch. Assie's heart couldn't help but skip a beat at the murderous intent in that gaze. "No, it's not like that. I really didn't do it on purpose." ACI couldn't help but mutter, "Sigh. I just saw her running all day long. When I wanted to talk to her, she ran away too. I really didn't know that her reaction would be so big. If I knew it would be like this from the start, I definitely wouldn't have done it. Sigh. There was no point in saying all this. Things had already happened. Right now, he regretted it more than anyone else, alright? How could he have known that Xiao Mu's reaction would be so big? After he put that thing on her wrist, she felt like she was suffocating, and her entire person was delirious. What exactly triggered her? Mo Lien sent a palm strike over but was stopped by the venerable Peach Blossom Immortal. "If you beat him up, you'll drag Jojo down with you. Wait a minute, let's take off the dual star immortal spirit bracelets first." After saying that, he turned to look at Yas and pretended to kick him in the chest. ACI couldn't help but be startled and shrink his neck. "Hurry up and tell me the truth. How do you want to undo it?" Two people have to inject their spiritual power at the same time. Yas confessed honestly. But now, Jojo was unconscious. How could he inject spiritual energy into him? What kind of spiritual power? Earth spirit. Yas said listlessly. "I'm at the 9th level of spiritual soil, so the other person has to be at least at the 9th level of spiritual soil. Otherwise, they won't be able to undo the dual star immortal spirit bracelets. When Xiao wakes up, you will immediately assist her and undo this damn thing." Yas was silent. "Are you deaf? Alright. Stop arguing. The venerable Peach Blossom Immortal hurriedly pushed away Mo Yen, who couldn't wait to attack ACI. I think this fellow should have understood. It's fine, it's fine. Since there's a way, it can naturally be undone. When Jojo wakes up later, just don't provoke her. ACI couldn't help but want to look at the little person curled up on the brocade couch. Mo Yen's figure flashed and blocked his view. Get away. Chapter 1458. ACI couldn't help but feel a little angry. He lifted the copper bracelet on his wrist and glanced coldly at Mo Yen. For now, scram. Mo Yen couldn't help but feel exasperated. She really wanted to burn this bastard to ashes. This ridiculous man had caused his Jojo to be captured by a nightmare. She must have recalled that annoying nightmare again and been frightened by some of the things in the nightmare. Xiao Mu really did sleep a bit deeply this time. It wasn't until dawn that she showed signs of waking up. When Mo Yen saw her little hand move, she hurriedly moved to the side of the brocade couch and looked at her. Jojo. Arbor fluttered her long eyelashes and opened her eyes. For a moment, she looked blankly at Mo Yen. Lien. She wanted to raise her hand for a hug, but when she moved her wrist, she heard the frightening sound of the chain clanking. Don't be afraid, Jojo. Don't worry, it's fine now. We've already found a way to undo the twin star immortal spirit bracelets. Seeing the little girl's expression change slightly and about to turn hostile, Mo Yen hurriedly went forward and hugged her, patting her back comfortingly. All right, let's undo the twin star immortal spirit bracelets now. The venerable Peach Blossom Immortal grabbed ACI, who was sitting on the floor, and pulled him to the little girl's side. Arbor glared at him angrily, then turned her head and shrunk into Mo Yen's embrace. ACI looked on unhappily. Suddenly, he pulled hard on the copper bracelet on his wrist. What are you doing? Mo Yen quickly grabbed the other end to prevent him from pulling hard and hurting Arbor's wrist again. You're asking for a beating, aren't you? The venerable Peach Blossom Immortal kicked ACI in exasperation. Don't play tricks. Hurry up and undo it. Even if you don't think for yourself, you should think for your clansmen. ACI looked coldly at the two of them, then turned to look at Arbor. I didn't do it on purpose. What's the point of saying all this now? It doesn't matter if you did it on purpose or not. You scared Jojo. The venerable Peach Blossom Immortal rolled his eyes at ACI. All right. Hurry up and undo it. Cut the crap. I didn't do it on purpose. Yaz stiffened his neck and glared at Arbor solemnly. Arbor didn't even bother to look back at him. He hid in Mo Yen's arms with a displeased expression and didn't say a word. Yas only felt that his heart was suffocating. He wanted to say something else, but when he came into contact with North Prince Mo's cold and ruthless gaze, he couldn't help but be startled. We guarantee that if you continue to speak nonsense, those clansmen that came with you, including your sister-in-law, will all die within my northern Mo's borders today. Heh, are you trying to start a war with the Aikido tribe? So be it. The Crown Prince smiled disdainfully at him. A loser isn't worth mentioning. You lost to me once, so you will lose to me 100 or 1,000 times over. If the Crown Prince became willful, he was an existence that even Northern Mo's great king was afraid of. ACI shut his mouth and stood up to walk to Arbor's side. He raised his hand. Let's begin. 2 streams of pure wood spirit energy were injected into the copper rings from their respective bodies. With 2 clicks, the copper ring in Arbor's hand instantly sprang open and landed in Mo Yen's hand. A cold glint flashed in his eyes, and the spiritual weapon was instantly devoured by the black fire in his hand, turning into a pile of dust. ACI couldn't help but be slightly alarmed. He glanced at Mo Yen before turning to Arbor and saying, "Count it as my rashness this time." Fragmented consciousness. Chapter 1459. But you were in the wrong too. If you hadn't run off the moment you saw me, I wouldn't have. Arbor and Mo Lien turned to glare at him at the same time. ACI took a deep breath. Okay, it's my fault. To make it up to you, how about this? Don't you need a medicine man? I can be your medicine man. My body is strong anyway, I'm not afraid of you drugging me. Assie's eyes lit up as he suddenly spoke. The venerable Peach Blossom Immortal looked at him as if he was an idiot. Bring it on. ACI closed his eyes and made up his mind. He made up his mind to let Arbor vent his anger. He wouldn't cry out in pain. Arbor couldn't be bothered with this person. He glanced at him from the corner of his eyes, then shrank back into Mo Lien's arms. Scram! Mo Lien kicked him in annoyance. She carried the little fellow and walked into the inner room. Hey, stinky girl. ACI frowned, extremely displeased. Why was she looking at him with disdain when he wanted to be a medicine man? Big brother. Ollie walked quickly to his side and said angrily, Big brother, you've been beaten up so badly by them. Are we just going to let this go? He looked at his big brother's handsome face, which was now bruised and swollen. There was even a bruise on his eye. Ollie was furious but had nowhere to vent it. The venerable Peach Blossom Immortal sat on a round-backed chair at the side. He crossed his legs and glanced at him. What, do you want to continue? Master, don't talk to this person. The little python bull swam around Assie's legs and gave the venerable Peach Blossom Immortal a wary look. This person was clearly an immortal supremacy. Why would he appear in the lower star domain? He was different from a sacred beast that had been contracted by its master. It was too strange for an immortal supremacy to appear in such a place. The venerable Peach Blossom Immortal sat there calmly and even asked the palace maids to brew a pot of tea for him. A certain immortal supremacy, who was holding a teacup and enjoying himself, chuckled and gave the little python bull a look. What, are you waiting for me to make you leave? Bah! The little python bull immediately swam around ACI. Master, let's go. This place did not welcome them, so why should they stay and provoke others? Yas hesitated for a moment and glanced at the inner chamber. Big bro, what are you looking at? Let's go. Ollie couldn't help but pull Yas back. Big brother Yas, since they've already chased us out, why are we still standing here? Akir asked in a neutral tone. What do you know? He hadn't reconciled with the little girl yet. He was worried that if he left like this, the next time they met, the little girl would be even colder to him. It's all that North Prince Mo's fault, he's such a busybody. No, there was also this celestial venerable in front of him. He was even more annoying. Yas reluctantly walked out of the Eastern Palace's bedchamber. He turned his head to take a look, his expression somewhat irritated. At this time, Arbor, who had been carried into the inner room by Mo Lien, was leaning on him with a sad expression, his little head drooping listlessly. Jojo. Mo Lien carefully applied the ointment on the red marks on her wrist. She lowered her head and asked softly, Are you feeling better? Does it still hurt? Arbor shook her little head and turned to look at him. He's sick. Mo Lien nodded. That's right. He's very sick. Although Mo Lien said that, he was deep in thought. Could it be that Yas had not forgotten his Jojo all these years? Just thinking about it gave him a headache. Why did he meet such a fool? Chapter 1460. Jojo. Mo Lien placed the little fellow on his lap and looked at her seriously. Were you trapped by a nightmare? Arbor nodded and reached out to hug his neck. She rubbed against him like a small animal and said pitifully, Someone whipped me. It hurts. Mo Lien's eyes flashed with anger. Who? Arbor shook her head. I couldn't see her face clearly. But if I see her again, I'll definitely recognize her. Mo Lien patted her back twice and carried her to the bed. Don't think too much. We'll make them pay back what they owe us. You should sleep for a while more. At this moment, the little fellow looked dispirited and especially tired, which made Mo Lien's heart ache immensely. Jojo, I'll only be at ease if you're fine. Mo Lien murmured softly as he half laid her down on the bed with him. He reached out to stroke the furry back of her head. Sleep, I'll watch over you. Arbor tilted her head and laid on top of him. She reached out to hug his waist and snuggled into his arms. You don't have to go to court today. No, I'm not going anywhere. I'll stay here and accompany you. Mo Lien patted her lightly. Alright, don't talk. Be a good girl and go to sleep. We'll talk when you're fully rested. Xiao Mu mumbled a muffled "mm." She rested her head on his chest and heard his steady and powerful heartbeat. Soon, she drifted off to sleep. Mo Lien gently held her little hand. He wanted to use the medicine to treat the red marks on her wrist, but when he looked at it, he was stunned. Her little wrist was white and tender and there was no trace of the red marks. TSK, the little fellow's recovery ability was a bit shocking. Even if he had his own medicine, he might not be able to recover so quickly. Crown Prince Mo's thin lips lightly kissed her small, fair wrist before he shifted his body and slid out from under the little fellow's body. He then placed her properly on the bed and covered her small stomach with a thin blanket. Mo Lien flicked his finger and a defensive boundary appeared in the bedroom. He then quickly pushed open the door and left. Take care of this person on the way back. Mo Lien waved his hand indifferently, and the dozen or so hidden figures quickly left. Huifeng appeared next to the crown prince with his head lowered and said softly, Lightning's team knows they didn't protect you well, so they've already returned to Marshall Mountain to receive their punishment. When he thought of Lightning's unlucky brothers, Huifeng couldn't help but twitch his mouth. Crown Prince Mo's gaze flickered, and he nodded apathetically. Got it. Ao Yi and the others? Yes. Ao Yi is still reliable, Your Highness. When Huifeng thought of that big brother Ao Yi, he couldn't help but praise him. Humph. The Crown Prince said with dissatisfaction, have Mei Yi lead the team and eliminate them. Just tell us what mystic weapons and spirit weapons you need. But what if young Master Assie's group doesn't return so quickly and they might have to stay in our Guanlan city for a while? Huifeng asked weakly. Then let them live for a few more days, the Crown Prince said with a cold expression. When the time comes, I'll have Little Seven accompany them to deal with that ancient python bull. Leave the rest to Mei Yi and the others. They must not leave a single one alive. Yes. Huifeng silently lit a candle for ACI in his heart. Good luck to you, young Master ACI. Chapter 1461. Hey, that kid isn't an ordinary person. You'll be in big trouble if you kill them so rashly. The Venerable Peach Blossom Immortal chuckled as he glanced at Mo Lien with a cup in his hand. You're so long-winded. Humph. The Venerable Peach Blossom Immortal rolled his eyes. I'm reminding you out of the goodness of my heart. You don't know how to appreciate my kindness. After all, that kid has something like a poison-repelling fruit in his body. You should know very well that there's no such thing in this shabby minor starfield. That young Master ACI should be from the upper 3 continents, right? His identity is probably not simple. I just don't know if he's from the Divine Continent, the Tsang Continent, or the Underworld Continent. The Venerable Peach Blossom Immortal winked with a smile. By the way, how's my Jojo doing now? Who's your Jojo? How annoying. Mo Lien glared at him fiercely. The Venerable Peach Blossom Immortal looked aggrieved. She summoned me. I'm hers, and she's mine. If she's not mine, then whose? You. He couldn't be bothered to say anything more to this scoundrel. The truth was that Jojo was his wife. It was that simple. At the same time, in a dilapidated temple on Shilua Street, hundreds of masked men in black had gathered here. Master has ordered that the operation will be brought forward. Everyone is to prepare for the operation in 3 days. The middle-aged man under the metal demon mask issued the latest order with a cold expression. Yes. The Rakshasa princess led a group of Rakshasa ghost sect disciples and stood respectfully at the very back. They lowered their heads and didn't dare to make a sound. Everyone, go back and rest for now. Wait for orders. After the man with the metal demon mask finished speaking, he vanished from the dilapidated temple like a wisp of smoke. The Rakshasa princess heaved a sigh of relief. The man's presence was too oppressive. She almost couldn't stand still just now. This was the difference between the great spiritual realm and the ordinary spiritual realm. However, the Rakshasa princess had just heaved a sigh of relief when she suddenly realized that the man with the metal demon mask had appeared beside her. Rakshasa. There was a hint of coldness in his voice, causing the Rakshasa princess to shiver inexplicably and nod repeatedly. If this operation fails again, I think there's no need for you to exist anymore. Princess Luosha's pupils constricted. She nodded and stuttered, I will not disappoint you, Hall Master. A cold light flashed through the eyes under the iron ghost mask. He nodded and said, Rakshasa, don't disappoint me again. Then, he disappeared from Princess Luosha's side. This time, he had left for real. However, even after he left, Princess Luosha still felt weak all over, unable to muster any strength. It was as if she had been drenched from head to toe by the rain. Her legs were so weak that she couldn't move at all. Hundreds and thousands of men in black disappeared from the ruined temple. Princess Luosha clenched her fists. Last time, the rice distribution incident didn't cause many casualties, which caused her master's plan to fail again. That Prince Mo was truly a troublesome opponent. He could see through her master's plans time and time again. She hoped that everything would go smoothly this time. Speaking of which, why didn't her master take care of such a strong opponent once and for all? This thought flashed through Princess Luosha's mind, but she didn't dare think about it anymore. How would she dare guess her master's thoughts? Chapter 1462. But the Rakshasa princess simply couldn't figure it out. At the very least, Master's underground village had been destroyed by Prince Mo's men several times in a row. It was impossible for Master not to resent such a great loss. Especially that time in the Mystic Beast Forest. In the end, such a large deployment was easily destroyed by the people Crown Prince Mo sent. Their organization's largest underground base on Seekong planet was subsequently disbanded. It had to be known that they had used the news of the Phoenix Egg with great difficulty to lure so many people to the Mystic Beast Forest, all for the sake of Master had suffered at the hands of this Prince Mo 2 or 3 times in a row. With Master's personality, it was impossible for her to continue lying low. This time, she would certainly teach the Northern Prince Mo an unforgettable lesson. When she thought of this, the Rakshasa princess curled her lips into a gorgeous yet callous smile. Pop, 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 firecrackers rang out as the vassal prince of Nan and commandery Princess N's lively wedding ceremony proceeded rapidly in a strange atmosphere. Commandery Princess N was a young lady who had married out of the palace, and she was also the Queen Dowager's adopted granddaughter in name. As a result, her dowry was arranged according to the highest princess-like scale. Logically speaking, this should be a grand wedding. It was only slightly inferior to the Crown Prince's wedding. Not to mention most of the high-ranking officials in the court, even some members of the sex and patrician families also attended this grand wedding out of respect. Yet who knew that at this moment, the people attending the wedding ceremony all felt their scalps tingle. Not to mention the groom's seething malice, what was going on with him, which inexplicably made people feel a bit scared. Also, what was the meaning of this that obvious row of teeth marks on his chin? The funniest thing was that his left eye was swollen and bruised, which made it very awkward. Not only did it affect the vassal prince's looks, but it also made him look a bit more comical. When the vassal prince led Commandery Princess and into the vassal prince of Nan's estate while holding the other end of the red silk ribbon, everyone felt a seething killing intent. Fuck, wasn't this a grand wedding? Why did it look like a funeral? There was something wrong with the vassal prince's expression. The crown prince looked as if he had lost his parents. His face was taut and he did not smile from beginning to end. Was it really a good idea to hold a wedding like this? There was also that Commandery Princess who was reluctantly tugging at the end of the red silk with small steps. She would pause twice after taking a step, causing the vassal prince to continuously turn around to glare at her. Cough, cough. This wedding ceremony was really the strangest one they had seen recently. And gripped the end of the red silk tightly as she asked Su, who was beside her, in a low voice, "Did the crown prince come over?" "No, I didn't." Su, was about to cry. What happened the night before was like a nightmare. Her miss had not even entered the house, but she had already become a joke in the entire residence. Now, not to mention vassal Prince even the vassal king of Nan and the vassal king consort also disliked her very, very much. "Damn lass, you didn't give the letter to Xiao 11Z. And grabbed Su's arm, her sharp nails nearly digging into her flesh. Su whimpered. "Miss, Su gave it to you. I gave the letter to eunuch Xiao 11Z, woo-woo. Then how come his highness didn't come?" "Miss, I heard that the crown princess got a fright yesterday, so the crown prince didn't even attend morning court today. He stayed in the eastern palace to accompany the crown princess," Su said aggrievedly. Chapter 1463. Impossible. Commandery Princess simply could not accept this news. He actually didn't even go to morning court for that little bitch. She really is a bewitching little vixen. Commandery Princess gripped Su's arm tightly and stopped walking forward. The red carpet from the patio to the main hall was only 200 steps away, but they had to stop and walk for more than half a cup of tea's time, and they still hadn't finished walking. The vassal prince of Nan tightened his grip on the red sash, causing the veins on the back of his hand to bulge. "Let's go!" he shouted. His shout almost scared the guests out of their wits. Cough, there was something wrong with the atmosphere. Commandery Princess promptly flung the red sash in her hand in a fit of rage. She abruptly lifted the red veil and looked at the vassal prince of Nan frigidly. "Who do you think I am, one of those lowly concubines in your inner court? Yelling and shouting at me? Don't forget my identity." When Princess Anam Wu Hongma saw that this daughter-in-law had no regard for her dignity and actually lifted the veil on her own before the wedding ceremony and criticized her son with disdain, she was instantly infuriated. She walked up with the help of someone and raised her sleeve to slap Commandery Princess "You wicked woman! You shameless bitch! If it weren't for the great king's decree of marriage, do you think that our vassal prince's estate would still tolerate you as the vassal prince consort with your ruined body? You wouldn't even be able to become a maidservant, let alone a lowly concubine." Commandery Princess was so angry that her face flushed red, and she kicked Wu Hongma's waist ruthlessly. "You are the ruined old woman. Wasn't it all thanks to her bitch son that she became like this?" Every time she thought of how her virginity was snatched away by a man who was practically a stranger, and was in so much pain that she wished she was dead. Ah! Wu Hongma didn't expect Commandery Princess to be so bold and shrewd, daring to kick her mother-in-law as soon as she came up. This was completely inconsistent with her usual image. After kicked Wu Hongma to the ground, the surrounding people started making a fuss about nothing. Vassal Prince Consort. King Consort. The vassal king of Nan was so angry that his face was flushed red, and his entire body was trembling. After their brainless princess consort's shout just now, everyone was looking at the vassal prince of Nan with sympathetic gazes, sympathizing with the lush greenery above his head. How pitiful! According to Princess Anam's meaning, the great king had appointed a withered woman to be the vassal prince of Nan's official wife. That was a little unkind. However, the great king had always been muddle-headed. He would do whatever he wanted to do. It wasn't the first time that he had randomly played matchmaker. However, among the mandarin ducks that he randomly selected, some were filled with happiness, like the crown princess and the crown prince, while some were in so much pain that they wished they were dead, like the pair in front of him. Cough, cough. How should I put it? The great king's success rate was 50/50ths. He wasn't completely muddle-headed. Pa! At this time, the vassal prince of Nan, Cho Fu, who was clenching his fists, couldn't take it anymore and slapped Commandery Princess En's cheek. Scram back to the palace. I'm going to divorce you. Everyone looked at each other in dismay. At the same time, It couldn't be, right? The wedding ceremony hadn't even fucking ended yet, alright? They were going to divorce just like that. These two people's actions seemed even more unkind. Would it infuriate the great king? Shut up. At least there was still a rational vassal prince of Nan among this bunch of irrational people. Chapter 1464. This slap stunned Commandery Princess En's entire being. A minute later, Commandery Princess En clutched her face and lunged forward, baring her fangs and brandishing her claws like a madwoman. She completely disregarded her dignity and pounced over to bite the vassal prince of Nan. Seize her. The old vassal prince of Nan swiftly pointed at Commandery Princess En, and several robust maidservants immediately crawled over and pinned Commandery Princess En down tightly. They then pinned her hands behind her back and shoved her forward. Wu Hongma had just suffered a loss, so when she saw that this shrew had been subdued, she immediately rushed up and slapped her daughter-in-law with both hands. The old vassal prince of Nan glared hatefully at Princess Anam and felt his old face burning painfully. He had been humiliated by this brainless family. Just look at what day it was today that so many court officials were present. If this matter landed in the mouths of those people who were at odds with him, it would become a source of idle laughter. What's more, they might even use this to attack him. It was simply abominable. This marriage was personally decreed by the great king. Even if you two are 1,000 times unwilling, you have to restrain your hatred and carry out the wedding ceremony to the end. The old vassal prince of Nan declared with a sullen face. Afterwards, the newlyweds were tied up and brought into the wedding hall. Everyone looked at each other in bewilderment, simply at a loss for words. Wasn't this just like an old saying? Don't force a cow to drink water. Seeing this newlyweds being pushed to their knees and forced to perform the 3 kowtow ceremony, everyone looked at each other again, feeling that this wedding ceremony was extremely laughable. Once the ceremony was over, the old vassal prince of Nan immediately ordered for En to be tied up and brought back to the bridal chamber. Only the vassal prince of Nan, whose face was bruised and swollen, was left behind. After exchanging a few pleasantries with the guests, he made up an excuse to leave. This wedding banquet was like a funeral banquet. Everyone was distressed and sullen, and after forcing themselves to drink 2 cups, they all made excuses to leave. After all the guests had left, Wu Hongma smashed an exquisite tea set on the spot and cursed indignantly, "Look at what kind of daughter-in-law this is. What sin did I, Wu Hongma, commit to have such a daughter-in-law? No, I want to enter the palace. Come back." The vassal king of Nan's face revealed a bit of viciousness. What do you want to do by entering the palace? Do you want to find the great king and scold him? Do you still not understand? The great king is clearly trying to make our Chiu family the laughingstock of the whole world. The vassal king of Nan clenched his fists and snorted. He purposefully betrothed En to Fu. However, I will also make him understand that the vassal king of an Nan's estate isn't that easy to bully. The old vassal king of an Nan's eyes revealed a trace of ruthless fury as he tightly clenched his fists. Achoo! The great king, who didn't know that he had been tricked by his son and had infuriated the vassal king of an Nan's estate by randomly choosing a marriage. At this moment, he was in the royal garden, accompanying his 16-year-old noble ladying to recite poems, compose couplets, and admire the flowers. Xiao Mu rubbed her eyes. When she woke up, she looked up slightly and met Crown Prince Mo's phoenix eyes, which were staring at her unwaveringly from up close. She quickly moved her small hands and tried to crawl up. The Crown Prince then helped her sit up in passing. Have you slept enough? Arbor nodded. Seeing how grinning you are, could it be that you have something good to tell me? The Crown Prince smiled. Did you know, and this scoundrel, has finally married into the vassal king of an Nan's estate. Chapter 1465. Arbor's eyes lit up, and he hooked his finger. She didn't play any tricks. How could she not play any tricks? The Crown Prince pursed his lips and said, she even sent someone to deliver a letter to me yesterday. Where is the letter? Burned it. Arbor looked at him in astonishment. Didn't you see what she said? What could she say? It didn't matter what she said. She was going to be a dead person soon anyway. Arbor glanced at him speechlessly. Perhaps, she wanted to tell you some secrets. Secrets? Then let her bring it underground and tell it to the King of Hell. The Crown Prince glanced at the little fellow in amusement. What lousy secrets could she have? Don't worry. Arbor also thought that this was true. Ian was merely a girl raised in a boudoir. Even if she had some secrets, it probably didn't mean much to them. She kicked her short legs, and Prince Mo helped her up with a grin. There are still about 20 days before the Heaven Ascension stairway opens. Jojo, you should stay in the cultivation ground and cultivate properly for the next few days. Don't wander around, HM. Arbor looked at him suspiciously. Is something special about to happen? What's so special about it? The Crown Prince stood up with a grin and walked to her side to hold her small hand. It's just that there have been too many mundane matters recently. Look at you, you've even fallen behind in your cultivation. Isn't that bad? MHM, it is bad. Arbor nodded. Your Highness. Xiao 11Z jogged in submissively and reported with a salute, Your Highness, Her Majesty the Queen has sent a verbal edict. She has invited a group of noble ladies from other kingdoms to June Mountain's Yiting Court to admire the lotus flowers the day after tomorrow. She has invited the Crown Princess to accompany her. Mo Lien, what was going on? He had just instructed the little fellow to behave and stay at home, yet his mother had jumped out to mess things up again. Not going, not going. The Crown Prince waved his hand impatiently and said, Go and report to Mohu. Tell her that the Crown Princess hasn't been in good spirits these past 2 days and needs to recuperate. Arbor blinked but didn't say anything. Since she was married, she had to follow her husband's wishes. Seeing Haitang come in with a bowl of porridge and a few dishes, Arbor sat down and started eating. Yesterday, he had been busy for most of the night and hadn't eaten much. Now that he smelled the fragrance of the porridge, he was really hungry. Arbor was eating at the side with a spoon when he heard Xiao 11Z say bitterly, That won't do, Your Highness. Her Majesty the Queen has already specified for the Crown Princess to accompany her. If we go back to Her Majesty now, wouldn't it be a little inappropriate? Xiao 11Z cautiously consoled his capricious master. From time to time, he would glance at Arbor with his little eyes. Crown Princess, say something. Arbor looked down at himself in astonishment, then continued to eat the porridge with the spoon. What could she say? She didn't want to go anyway, so it was just nice that her husband was blocking her. Who had the time to admire flowers with a bunch of orioles and swallows? She might as well stay at home and cultivate. Xiao 11Z panicked when he saw this, and he stammered, Your Highness, Crown Prince Consort, when Her Majesty the Queen sent a messenger, she even emphasized that the Crown Prince Consort must accompany them. Mo Lien frowned and walked outside. I'll go talk to Mohu. Forget it, Arbor pursed his lips and said, if you go talk to her, she'll misunderstand and think that I'm instigating you behind her back again. So be it, she wasn't afraid of anyone. Chapter 1466. Can you tell me now if something has happened? After Xiao 11Z left, Arbor looked towards Mo Lien with a spoon in her mouth. Mo Lien helplessly flicked her small forehead. What's the point of being so smart? He sat down beside her. I suspect that organization will make a move again in the near future. Arbor's expression turned solemn, and she put down the spoon in her hand. Right now, they're hiding in the dark, while we're out in the open. We have no idea when they're going to make a move or how they're going to make a move. Mo Lien nodded. If they want to make a move, your mother's trip to Mount June's Yating Court this time has provided them with a very good opportunity. Mo Lien nodded again. This little fellow understood immediately, so he didn't need to waste his breath explaining. It's not a good idea if we keep hiding. Arbor stood up and said, why don't we beat them at their own game and take the initiative to attack? Mo Lien sighed softly. He had originally wanted to take the initiative to attack, but the prerequisite was that this little fellow had to stay in the Eastern Palace and not go anywhere, so that he didn't have any worries. But now, I'll go talk with Royal Mother and have her cancel this trip. Since he knew there was danger, it wasn't his style to walk in the face of danger. Although Northern Mo Kingdom was powerful enough to look down on the other kingdoms. But if the noble ladies of the other kingdoms were all implicated by the mysterious organization during this trip to Mount June and innocently lost their lives, then it wouldn't be easy for Northern Mo's great king and the kings of the other kingdoms to account for it. Arbor grabbed his hand and shook her head. The queen must have already passed down the verbal order to everyone. It wouldn't be good to go back on our word now. Send more people to follow us. Arbor's eyes flashed. She swiped her left hand across the air and drew out a blue ebony storage talisman. Don't worry. If there's an emergency, I'll knock out all those orioles and swallows and throw them here. Ah. Mo Lien glanced curiously at the talisman in her hand. This storage talisman can store people now. Okay. Arbor was rather pleased with himself. He raised his small head and said, ever since I became a yellow-level Great Talisman Master, my storage talisman has also risen to a new level. Currently, a single yellow-grade ebony-blue talisman had a storage space of 50 cubic meters. You can even store living things. Mo Lien pulled her into his arms and kissed her hard. He praised, my JoJo is amazing. Arbor took out several upgraded storage talismans and stuffed them into Mo Lien's hands. I'll help you store your things. You can rest assured now. If there's any danger, I'll put them all in the talisman. Then, I'll hide in Paradise Planet. Who can do anything to me? Although what she said sounded very safe, Mo Lien still felt a little scared. She didn't want her to lure the snake out of its hole and put herself in danger. JoJo. Don't worry. Arbor raised her small head and cupped his handsome face. She suddenly smacked her lips against his. Lure them out. It'll be best if we can catch them all in one fell swoop. Arbor shook his small head. He increasingly felt that this method was excellent. Prepare well in secret. Once we're surrounded, bring Situ-E, Duan Yu, and the others over to save us. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we coordinate from the inside and outside? Our dear Mo Lien didn't know whether it was wonderful or not. He only knew that. His wife kissed him. Kissed him. Kissed him. He kissed him. Chapter 1467. Arbor still hadn't realized what was going on when he saw this fool's dazed expression. She poked his handsome face. "What are you doing?" Mo Lien cupped her small cheeks with one hand and kissed her small mouth with a squeak. "Wife, you kissed me just now, kissed me again. Here." She wouldn't have felt anything if he hadn't said it, but the moment this fellow said it, the little girl's entire face turned red. What was going on? Wasn't it just because this fellow casually mentioned it? She felt a bit flustered and short of breath, as if she had a guilty conscience. Especially when he leaned over, looking like he was asking for a kiss. So what if she kissed him? Humph. If she wanted to kiss him, she would kiss him. In any case, he was hers, so she would kiss him. Humph humph. Smack. She gave him another peck on the face. She reached out her small hand and subconsciously fanned herself in front of him. Strange, her face felt so hot. Arbor picked up the spoon and continued to drink the porridge in all seriousness. He tried to find a topic to talk about. Today's porridge is pretty good. Really? Prince Mo blinked and leaned close to her with a grin. As long as you like it, wife. In the future, husband will cook it for you every day. How about it? Arbor. One day later, Northern Mo's queen and crown princess led a group of concubines, princesses, and commandery princesses to June Mountain's Yiting court to entertain the noble ladies of other kingdoms. When the sky brightened, everyone arrived at the appointed location and met in front of Huazhong Gate. Huazhong Gate's main hall had a wide staircase that stretched up to 100 steps. At this time, many carriages and horses had already gathered at the bottom of the staircase. The noble ladies sat in the carriages, their faces red as they looked at the handsome young men across from them through the curtains. Today, the male guests would follow the great king and the crown prince to West Mountain to hunt, while the female guests would accompany Her Majesty the Queen to Yiting Court to tour the lake and admire lotus flowers. Northern Mo Kingdom hadn't been so lively in a long time, so everyone was in a very good mood. Some of the girls who were on good terms with them had already gathered together and were chattering about the gentleman across from them. At this moment, a group of officials and sons of aristocratic families were also gathered together. However, they were not as bored as the noble ladies. They were gathered together and enthusiastically discussing the prizes of today's West Mountain hunting competition. The great king took out 3 profound armaments as the prize. Young Master Su, I'll have to compete with you in today's hunt. Same here. Let's just rely on our own abilities. But I say, it's useless for you to fight here. A young master winked at a certain place. Everyone turned to look and saw Northern Wei's Third Highness, Wei Nanfeng, Southern Bailey's Second Highness, Bailey Shi, standing together with the Duan family's 4th young master, Duan Yu, and Heavenly Dao Sec's young sect master, Situ Yi. From afar, they saw the Qin Estate's Grand Duke Ziqin Xian walking over with the 2 handsome young masters of the Dou clan and 6th young master Zheng's group. When they saw this, they immediately felt that it was hopeless. With so many powerful opponents here, their hunting trip in the West Mountain was most likely to be a mere accompaniment. Sigh. Why was it so vexing? These powerful young masters must have made an appointment to come here together. The great king and Her Majesty the Queen have arrived. Someone called out, and everyone looked up in awe. On the long steps, the great king and the crown prince led several princes and heir apparent down the steps. On the other side, Her Majesty the Queen was also walking down the steps with the support of the Green Mammy. Behind her were Consort Cheng, Lu Fei, and a large group of womenfolk. Chapter 1468. The young crown prince consort looked as if she hadn't woken up yet as she followed them from a distance with her head drooped. Haitang followed beside her, wanting to reach out to support her from time to time. To tell the truth, she had originally thought that they would be setting out at noon. Who knew that Her Majesty the Queen would be in such a hurry, having everyone gather at the crack of dawn? Xiao Mu inwardly yawned and sleepily raised her eyes. Ah, the moment she raised her eyes, he saw Yi and glaring at him with animosity. She was crazy. The young crown princess glared back, not to be outdone. This female scoundrel kept trying to seduce her husband. Humph, she would teach her a good lesson later. She would let this female scoundrel know why flowers were so red. She had to find a secluded place and teach her a good lesson. Looking at the sneaky foot that had appeared in front of her, the young crown princess directly stomped on it forcefully without a change in her expression. Only a "Kacha" sound was heard, accompanied by a blood-curdling scream. The group of young masters and noble ladies at the bottom of the stairs all turned around and looked up at a certain woman who was rolling down the stairs. Over 100 steps of stairs. This woman was truly in a sorry state as she rolled down. She had rolled all the way to the bottom and had almost bumped into a certain young master's thigh. Fortunately, that young master had dodged in time, evading her with a sidestep. As a result, that woman didn't manage to stop in time after rolling down, and she crashed into the carriage's wheel with a bang before coming to a stop. That horse was so startled that it raised its hooves and neighed. Just as that horse's hooves were about to land and break the woman's neck, Duan Yu flicked his sleeve, and a pebble hit that horse's leg with a whoosh. The horse flipped over in pain and fell heavily to the ground, lying side by side with that unlucky woman. The woman and horse neighed continuously. Crown Prince Mo raised his phoenix eyes and glanced at her in amusement. Empress Xiao creased her brows as she quickly walked down the stairs with a group of royal concubines to the side of the carriage. Looking at that woman who was hugging her leg and rolling on the ground while wailing in a cold sweat, she couldn't help but frown. What's going on? Sister, sister. The Marquis of Placation's estate's fourth miss, Su Mingxin, turned pale with fright as she ran forward and hastily reached out to support Su Mingzhu. The woman who had just disgraced herself by rolling down the stairs was the third miss of the Marquis of Placation's estate, Su Mingzhu. Su Mingzhu hugged her legs and rolled back and forth on the ground. When she saw Her Majesty the Queen walking over, she hastily rolled in front of her and cried out with a mournful expression, "Your Majesty, please judge clearly, Your Majesty. I beg you to uphold justice for this subject's daughter." Empress Xiao coldly glanced at her. So it's the Marquis of Placation's estate's third Mississippi. How could you be so careless? Someone, go to the Imperial Physician Building and summon a bone-setting expert Imperial Physician to take a look at Miss Su's leg. Su Mingzhu shuddered. She knew that Empress Xiao was warning her not to talk nonsense. But she couldn't accept it. Su Mingzhu hardened her heart and gritted her teeth. She wailed, "Your Highness, Mingzhu wasn't careless. Someone pushed Mingzhu down. Someone wants Mingzhu's life." Empress Xiao couldn't help but fly into a rage. You better think carefully before you speak. Empress Xiao couldn't quite wipe away the embarrassment that this incident had happened before they even set out. She instantly didn't have a favorable impression of this third miss of the Marquis of Placation's estate. Unexpectedly, the third miss was brainless. She didn't see through Empress Xiao's anger and even pointed in a direction as she shouted sternly, It's her. She pushed me." Chapter 1469. It's her. She pushed me. Su Mingzhu's eyes revealed a hint of smugness. Everyone turned to look and immediately saw the young crown prince consort looking all around. She then shifted her small feet to dodge to the side. Duan Yu, Situ Yi, and the others involuntarily twitched their mouths. The direction Su Mingzhu's finger was pointing at was precisely the young crown princess's direction. However, that little fellow didn't seem to understand at all and even looked around in confusion. When she saw someone else pointing at her, she even innocently dodged to the side. Her "you're pointing at the wrong person" expression was simply infuriating. Su Mingzhu was furious, and she kowtowed to Empress Zhao while weeping pitifully, begging Your Majesty to uphold justice. It's her, it's the Crown Princess. The Crown Princess pushed me. Woo-woo. This subject's lowly words carry little weight. Begging Your Majesty to uphold justice for this subject. I didn't push you. The young Crown Princess wasn't an idiot. How could she not speak up when someone else pointed at her like that? Besides, she naturally wouldn't admit to it since she didn't do it. You pushed me. How could this subject not know who pushed this subject? Su Mingzhu was inwardly resentful. This Crown Princess was actually someone who dared to do it but didn't dare to admit it. Wasn't she very fearless? Why was she acting like a coward now? The young Crown Princess was angry, and a harsh glint flashed across her eyes. Who has the leisure to push you? You put your leg in front of me yourself, so who am I supposed to step on if not you? Hai Tang nodded repeatedly on the side and said with a straight face, That's right, this servant can testify for the Crown Princess. This miss doesn't even know how to walk properly and would stretch her leg in front of the Crown Princess after walking for a while. The Crown Prince Consort is only stepping on her feet. Everyone, Su Mingzhu suddenly wailed and kowtowed repeatedly in front of Empress Zhao, Your Majesty is wise. The Crown Princess admitted to pushing me. She didn't step on me, she pushed me. Pushed me. Since when did I not walk properly? Of course, the servant by her side would speak up for her. Your Highness. Empress Zhao felt a headache coming on. She turned to look at the little Crown Princess and massaged her aching head. She felt a little regretful. Perhaps he shouldn't have invited the Crown Princess to attend this event. She still remembered that when she mentioned to the concubines yesterday that they had called the young Crown Princess to accompany them on this trip to Mount June, everyone looked like they had eaten a fly. Even now, when she thought about it, the memory was still fresh in her mind. Consort Cheng, Lu Fei, and other veteran concubines even repeatedly asked her to exempt the Crown Princess from this exhausting trip to Mount June. Now that she thought about it, the Crown Prince Consort must have done something out of line in the past to intimidate all of them. What's the fuss about? Arbor's voice was cold as he glared daggers at Su Mingzhu. Those who were familiar with her immediately cursed inwardly. The little fellow was really angry this time. Prince Mo was just about to step forward to comfort his wife when he saw an afterimage glide past him with a whoosh. The Crown Prince's eyebrows immediately twitched. When everyone looked over, they saw the little Crown Princess carrying the screaming Su Mingzhu and climbing to the top of the steps in a matter of minutes. A bad premonition slid through everyone's hearts. The great king and Empress Zhao both looked over in shock at the same time, and the corners of their eyes twitched. Sure enough, the Crown Prince Consort stretched out her leg and kicked Su Mingzhu's butt with a kick. Chapter 1470. Su Mingzhu's mouth instantly formed an O shape, but she didn't have time to scream before she rolled headfirst onto the steps. She cut an extremely sorry figure again and even rolled down even more ruthlessly. Everyone was flabbergasted and simply didn't know what to say. Empress Zhao reflexively shifted to the side and stared blankly as Su Mingzhu rolled down the steps. In the end, she even forcefully crashed into the wheel of the same carriage before abruptly coming to a stop. Su Mingzhu was completely stupefied from this fall, and she could only hear her useless fourth sister, Su Mingxin, screaming. Something soft seemed to flow out of her ears, and Su Mingzhu only felt like her head had been forcefully smashed by a large hammer. She was groggy and couldn't hear clearly at all. She had completely fainted, scaring Su Mingxin, who was kneeling on the side, so much so that she almost fainted as well. The Crown Princess's kick was too ruthless and directly knocked her unconscious. Arbor calmly floated down the steps and patted his small hands as he softly said, "Did you all see? As you all can see, this was indeed my kick. Duan Yu raised his fan to block his face. Situ Yi twitched his mouth and rolled his eyes at him. Don't think that no one can see you snickering just because you're blocking your face with a fan. Everyone, Xiaomi couldn't resist sniggering. She ran up and hooked her arm around Arbor's shoulder as she exclaimed, "Sis, I just like your personality. We're truly the same. What we did is what we did, and what we didn't do is what we didn't do. Since someone said that we kicked her down the stairs, then we might as well solidify this reputation of kicking people, ha 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 ha." Everyone looked at Princess Mi speechlessly. "You dunce, can you stop laughing?" Empress Xiao took a deep breath and inwardly warned herself, don't be angry, the daughter-in-law is our family's daughter-in-law, and our son has acknowledged her. Don't be angry. Ah. So angry. They hadn't fucking set out yet, but she already made such a scene. How shameless was she? Consort Cheng glanced sympathetically at Empress Zhao before hastily stepping forward to help Empress Zhao up. She quietly said, "Your Highness, in my opinion, this third miss of the Marquis of Placation's estate should be sent home to recuperate. Then fourth miss, let her accompany third miss back." What else could he do? Even if he had fainted from the fall, he couldn't be carried on the road. Empress Zhao glared at Arbor in annoyance. She allowed the green mammy to help her into the carriage and ordered people to send the two young misses of the Marquis of Placation's estate back. Nyang, calm down. Quickly drink some water first." Green mammy hurriedly handed her a cup of tea. Empress Zhao slammed her cup on the table. She was so angry. Along the way, Consort Cheng and the others felt uneasy. Actually, Consort Cheng didn't want to come today. Don't ask her why. Ever since the prayer event at the Honghai Temple's Nimpan Tower, Consort Cheng swore that she would never go out with the little crown princess in this lifetime. Going out with the little crown princess was simply too torturous. But this time, it was Her Majesty the Queen who had personally sent out the invitation. Fortunately, the person leading the group was Her Majesty the Queen, so the incident at the Nimpan Tower wouldn't happen again. That time, the young crown prince consort had really tormented their old bones to the point of choking them. Every time she thought about it, Consort Cheng couldn't help but shudder. Aya, quickly look. June Mountain's Yiting Court is right in front. TSK, looking at it from afar, the scenery is delightful. It's really beautiful. Xiaomi fussed. See you tomorrow. Chapter 1471. June Mountain's Yiting Court. From afar, one could see the continuous rise and fall of the mountains, which were steep and straight. In the center of the jade-green courtyard, three sides were surrounded by water. The scenery was beautiful and pleasant. Once they arrived at their destination, Princess Mi impatiently hopped out of the carriage. She stretched out her arms and made a hugging gesture as she giggled. Good, no zombies or mutated beasts, and such a large jade-green lake can be maintained. The trees provide shade, and the fragrance of flowers assails the nostrils. Ha, I like this place. Arbor lifted the curtain and expressionlessly crawled out of the carriage. Hearing Princess Mi's words, for some reason, she actually subconsciously looked back and forth. Hai Tang immediately assumed a defensive posture and vigilantly looked around before whispering, "Crown Princess, as Princess Mi said, there are no mutated zombies or zombie beasts appearing." Xiao Mi's mouth twitched, and she glanced at Arbor from the corner of her eyes. Younger sister, your bodyguard is rather interesting. He also appears to be very skilled. At this time, the noble ladies of the other kingdoms and the young misses of the patrician families all crawled out of their accompanying carriages and looked at the beautiful scenery in front of them with pleasant surprise. Her Majesty the Queen's mood improved greatly, and she said to everyone with a smile, "This place is the same as June Mountain's Wang family's hunting ground. There are people specially assigned to watch over this place. As expected of Northern Mo's fortifications. Southern Bailey's fifth Princess Bailey Zhen couldn't help but sigh. To be able to plan such a large fortification in such an orderly manner, the entire fortification, from the building defense to the perfect protection mechanism and the deployment of personnel, could be seen from every aspect of it that it was extraordinary. June Mountain's Yiting Court didn't seem to have changed much from the environment before the zombie outbreak. Previously, some mutated zombie beasts appeared in the lake here, but there weren't many of them, so they were promptly dealt with. Now, there are about 70 to 80% fewer aquatic animals in this body of water. Empress Xiao sighed. Everyone, don't worry. Let's board the ship first. Your Majesty, please. Everyone courteously let her go first. Docked at the shore was an exquisite and gorgeous three-story pleasure boat. Under the sunlight, the top of the pleasure boat, which was outlined with glazed tiles, flickered with a very dazzling light. Under the lead of Empress Xiao, the group boarded the pleasure boat one by one. The boat slowly left the shore and headed towards the center of the lake. Yiting Court was located on a small island in the middle of the green water. From afar, it looked as if it was being embraced by a pool of clear water. The green leaves appeared to be full of vitality in people's eyes. That should be a world that hasn't been polluted, everyone thought excitedly. Arbor was also curious. It was her first time here. Unexpectedly, there was such a strange courtyard in the vicinity of Mount June. It existed independently in this world. Nyang, since this Yiting Court has not been contaminated by zombie beasts, why not move here? Jean Hongluan from Northern Wei's Jin Clan Fort was a straightforward girl. She couldn't help but be curious when she saw that the environment here was so beautiful and lush that it surpassed even the royal palace. Empress Xiao explained with a smile, previously, there were mutated beasts roaming about, but the imperial court had always sent people to take care of this place and many small operations teams to complete missions here. Look, there are almost no aquatic animals in this lake. Chapter 1472. Everyone lowered their heads to look at the awe-inspiring surface of the lake. Sure enough, the water was incomparably clear, and there weren't even many small fish in the water. This Yiting Court is only a small resort after all. How can it fit so many people from the palace? Consort Cheng continued with a smile. Jean Hongluan couldn't help but be taken aback before saying with a smile, it was Hongluan who didn't think things through. She only thought that it wasn't easy to have a pure land in this chaotic world, but she didn't consider that there were already several hundred concubines in Northern Mo's great king's 3 palaces and 6 courtyards, not to mention the many eunuchs, palace maids, and guards. Where could they fit people? A small Yiting Court could fit 3 palaces, but it couldn't fit 6 courtyards. Empress Xiao waved her hand with a smile, and the group followed the current to the front of the island. After reaching the shore, everyone went ashore in a single file and excitedly followed Empress Xiao into Yiting Court. Since this courtyard was used as the Wang family's leisure resort, it was naturally meticulously taken care of. Today, Her Majesty the Queen was bringing honored guests over, so early in the morning, the steward of the resort led a group of servants to wait in front of the courtyard. When he saw the Queen's group arrive, he hurriedly went forward to welcome them in with a fawning smile. The steward was a middle-aged man with a fat head and big ears. It seemed that he lived quite freely in this Yiting Court. Your Majesty, honored guests, please follow this humble one. That steward cheerfully led everyone into the inner court. Will everyone be first assigned to a courtyard to stay in, or will this humble one first bring honored guests to tour Yiting Court? We didn't spend much time on this carriage journey, so we shouldn't be tired. Queen Zhao looked at everyone with a chuckle and said, Steward Hu, please lead us around this court for a while. All right. After you, Your Majesty, honored guests. Steward Hu smiled until his chubby white face squeezed out streaks of flesh. At this time, a pampered voice resounded, this princess heard that your Yiting Court has a type of bamboo shoot that is extremely delicious and delightful to eat. Moreover, after eating it, one would feel that their profound energy is much more abundant. Is this true? Steward, who was a person with good eyesight. The moment he turned his head, he immediately realized that the one who was stirring up trouble was the fourth princess of the royal family, Mo Shuang, the famous unruly princess. He hurriedly nodded and smiled apologetically. Fourth princess is right. However, the production of this spiritual bamboo shoot was extremely low throughout the year. Especially in the past 3 years, it had basically reached the point of extinction. The small amount of spiritual bamboo shoots produced every year are also presented to the Empress Dowager and the Great King. After saying that, he looked at fourth Princess Mo Shuang with a troubled expression, as if he wanted to say something but stopped himself. It was said that this fourth princess was a normal person and had nothing to do with a mystic cultivator. He didn't know why she suddenly thought of this. So what if spirit bamboo shoots can subtly raise one's profound strength? You, the fourth princess, don't even have a fart of profound strength, so eating it would just be a waste. Where is it? The young crown princess glanced curiously at Steward Hu. When Steward Hu saw this, he hurriedly cupped his hands towards the young crown princess, his expression clearly flattering. Crown princess, please follow this humble one. This humble one can bring honored guests over to take a look. It's just that we haven't picked any fresh spiritual bamboo shoots this year. As he spoke, he sighed and brought everyone to the bank of a stream. He pointed at the rows of bamboo on the bank of the stream and said, "Your Majesty, honored guests, this place is called Qingxi. The spiritual bamboo shoots are over there." You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.